Listen, everybody. So listen, and listen, and listen. I'm so excited to put on a pair of jeans. Golly shucks, geez, I'm just like you.
And here is the situation, and here is the truth.
Women were created to serve mediocre men, right? Men are smarter than you. They're better than you. In our state, we banned women from owning land. Yes, you all are shit. Donald Trump is taking away opportunities from our exceptional women. Yes, please welcome the 7th President of the United States, Don John.
What are we doing here? These people aren't very good, are they? It's terrible. It's terrible.
It is.
I happen to be a very young man,
Who controls China?
China.
China. Mr. President, as you can see, we've got a lot of mediocre men who want to ask you some questions.
Good.
Move.
Okay, hey everybody, I'm Jake. Welcome to Alt Worldly, the name of the channel. And for some reason, against all logic and reason and good sense, I'm gonna do a politics stream tonight. I don't really know why, I've just been feeling it. Kind of felt like a good idea. Trying to, I don't know, just kind of follow the fun in this channel, do stuff I like. Now, I'm not planning on turning Alt Worldly into a politics channel, but I am kind of interested in branching out and doing more stuff outside of this channel. Politics I really haven't posted about much on the internet. And so, but I'm curious. I think like most people who watch politics content, I had that feeling of like, I could probably do that. Now, probably I can't. We'll see. I did stream for the debate, which was fun, the Trump-Kamala debate, and it was a good time. And so I guess a couple of things here. I have branded this as a debate stream, and of course this is going to be a really janky debate stream. I don't have like a phone set up, so I'm going to literally like paste the StreamYard join link. You know, it's like joining a Zoom meeting, basically. I'm going to post it in the live chat, and whoever wants to call in can call in. Before we do that, I guess let's get a couple things out of the way, because I've never done this before. So first, why? Why do this? Well, I kind of wanted to get some reps in. I'm interested in covering politics on the internet, but I'm just a dumb guy. I don't know a lot, and I think I need to approach it from that perspective. Most of you know me as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, right? And so for most of my life, for the first probably 26 years of my life, I really didn't follow politics. I started getting interested in it as a Jehovah's Witness, and really that was one of the things that woke me up, was content where political arguments were deconstructed, the rhetoric, and I started to think, wait, why don't we do this? Why don't Jehovah's Witnesses do this with our critics? And so that started to make me think like, well, wait a minute, if our opponents are so bad, why can't we just refute their arguments? Why is it that we're told that we just have to avoid everything they're saying on the internet and not trust it? Trump branding this fake news and alternative fact thing, that was something I sort of recognized as something happening within Jehovah's Witnesses. The leaders saying, do not listen to critical information, all that kind of stuff. So I'm new to this, but I also, it's really important to me. And part of the journey leaving a group is figuring out what your political ideology is. I mean, my politics very much informed me leaving the group. I left the group because of their anti-LGBTQ issues, even before I knew that it wasn't true in some ontological sense. I just felt like it was wrong. So I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody calling in, but that's my perspective. You know, if you are anti-LGBTQ, well, I got out of the religion to kind of get away from people like you. That's I make no bones about the fact that I'm progressive, I'm on the left. I do try to avoid labels. I don't really know that there's a particular ideology I would ascribe to my beliefs that makes sense, because I'm learning new things all the time and changing my opinions on things. And so as far as the reason why I want to, I think it would be fun. But also, I have the privilege of having a really diverse audience. If you're looking at the live chat, I don't know why I turned into Jimmy Stewart. Oh boy. Falling back on impressions, really shitty impressions, and I get nervous. If you look at the comments, there's already a diverse spread of political opinions. And that's notable to me because I am pretty open about my political beliefs on the channel, even though it's not a channel about politics. So that is interesting. I've had a really good time recently listening to atheist call-in shows. I've been talking about that. That's sort of my favorite thing to listen to in the background at work. And so I've been listening to a lot of like The Line and Talk Heathen and stuff like that. And they've been doing politics debates, like having people call in, like, all right, if you're a Trump supporter, call in. Let's hear your arguments. Let's see if we can change your mind, or if you can change our mind, whatever. And it's really interesting because I have actually heard a few people get their mind changed, and that's unique. I've got some people who are on the right, some people who are further to the left of me, or just, I don't know, have a different perspective on leftism than me, maybe. So I think it's an opportunity to get a diversity of opinions. Unlike maybe some other shows, I definitely am not an expert in debating or anything like that. Like, I am really not, I would love to be as eloquent and equipped with this endless arsenal of knowledge of logical fallacies, but I'm not like that. And he's so fun to watch because he does, like, you know, get angry, and I think it's performative, but it is also sincere. So I'm going to be performative and sincere, but I'm also going to try to be nice. I think the rule should be, if I'm going to be trying to be nice, but if you're a dick to me or to people, then gloves are off a little bit. No slurs. Don't be saying anything that you know is going to get you kicked off, because you will. It's my stream. I'm not going to make any apologies about my beliefs, just as I'm sure that nobody in chat is going to make apologies about their beliefs, and people who call in are not going to make apologies about their beliefs, right? So let's, I guess, be respectful. Intrapersonally, let's be intrapersonally respectful, because you know, I don't respect bad ideas that I think are harmful or bad or ridiculous, but I respect the dignity and rights of humans. So I was kind of interested in, I didn't know how many people would join. It seems like we've actually got a few people who, it seems like, probably disagree with me. We could start just by going in chat. I guess maybe I should set the table, because I thought it might be fun to do a theist kind of debate. I'm really not good at debating atheism, because I think I'm not very well versed in science. I mean, I trust the science. Knowing the ins and outs of how evolution works doesn't really have a lot to do with my day-to-day life or interests or aspirations. So I find it fascinating to read about, but I don't tend to retain it or have an ability to, like, articulate it back. Ooh, and we have an appearance of Bosef. He just got up and he's a little stretchy. Let's see if we can see him on camera if I move my arm right. Hey, Bo. Hello. He's busy. Bo is busy taking a bath, but we did see an animal, so we do have to do the pet job.
Our spiritual paradise is a place that has many harmless animals.
Now, what do we mean by this?
So, we've got to acknowledge our animals. There may be other animals joining us. We've got several pets in this house. All right, so I see, like, debates about the two-party system, and I think I see some people on the right, and maybe people who are voting third party. Yes, please do like the stream, even though it doesn't really matter. This is not going to stay up public. I'll probably unlist it, but I'll post a link to it. Because it's sort of a weird one-off experimental stream, I don't necessarily want it to like be in the algorithm and fuck up the channel any more than I already do by mixing my live streams and video essays and YouTube poops. This is a weird channel. I just kind of do whatever I want. And so that is going to continue happening. Thank you. Yes, that is exactly... You're the first person to clock what that is. It is the Mabel Village theme. It was my first and only idea for the pet theme. It's mostly the reason why I wanted to do it, because I think it's one of the most hilariously annoying songs ever recorded. Hey, thanks to Casey Barber for becoming a member, by the way. Okay, so let's do... oh my god, by the way, Bumble Homestead, which is that not a reference to Outer Wilds, Bumble Homestead? I could be wrong. Yeah, the algorithm is beyond my understanding too. Yeah, I would agree with Altered Goat. I really like Majority Report. I think it's the best, most balanced leftist show on YouTube and Twitch. I agree. I really like Majority Report. Love Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland in particular. I tend to consume a pretty wide variety of stuff because I don't feel super concrete in, like, any particular label. I like to keep track of what the other side of the argument is saying. So I guess let's start with doing, I want to have people call in, and I haven't posted the link yet. Speaking of Link's Awakening, I have not yet made this link awaken. I haven't posted it yet. I'm leaving people in suspense. I didn't know Outer Wilds is a reference to bees. There's a planet, like your main planet in that game. It's like exploring space. It's called something like Bumble Homes. I might be wrong. That's really not important, but I think it's mandatory for left-leaning politics streamers to talk about Outer Wilds at some point, so I'm glad I could check off that box. Okay, so as far as where I stand, I'm voting for Kamala Harris. I think it's important that people do it. I know a lot of my viewers are not in the United States. And I also have, I meant to mention this earlier, but I was looking at my analytics. I've got a 60-40 split between men and women. I got 60% men, 40% women. From what I understand, that's pretty good, because I think YouTube can tend to be kind of a male-dominated platform. So I'm really happy with that. And so it'll be interesting to just get a wide variety of perspectives from that way too. Like, anyway, sorry. I also have ADHD, and yes, we might be smoking a little something. Oh, we got some interesting opinions. Yeah, okay, so that's right. That's what I was doing. I was explaining the premise of the show. That's important. Now, unfortunately, before I do that, I do have to take a drink of water.
The water of life.
Sorry, I didn't quite finish taking my sip.
The water of life.
That's usually why I play that longer drop at first, but that's okay. All right, so do I have the same percentage in real life? In what sense? I don't have any friends in real life, so it's a 0-0 split. Okay, so here's where I'm at, and here's where I guess what I think the parameters of the debate should be. There's probably some way I can put text on screen so we know what we're talking about, but I don't remember how to do that. I think that it's really important to vote for Kamala Harris in the election. If you can vote, maybe you can't, but I think that you should, and I think you should vote for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is not necessarily like my ideal candidate. There are a lot of things I like about her, but in general, I talked about this on the debate stream, she's not progressive enough for me. I would like her to be more openly progressive. The policies that she's outlined seem good. Actually, they seem like they would benefit me personally as somebody who, me and my wife, we would love to own a home, but it is really hard to get your foot in the door. Whatever. We can get into the extent to which legislation can even be passed, depending on how divided Congress and the Senate is. But I think it's really important. There are people who think that it is unethical to vote for Kamala Harris. Let's leave aside Trump supporters for a minute, but people I don't know if I would even say to the left of me, but people who have a different view of electoral politics say that you shouldn't vote for Kamala, you should vote for Jill Stein, or who else is it? It's Dr. God, why can't Cornel West, right? It's, who I didn't even realize was still running, but apparently he is. So that's kind of the dichotomy. The reason why people think that you should vote Green Party or vote third party or whatever is because they feel that a vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for genocide. And they're not going to vote for Trump because that's also a vote for genocide. So they think they should vote for Jill Stein because it is not. But that, I think, is a misunderstanding of how electoral politics works. Jenny Bloom just said Jill Stein has the same chance of winning as I do. That's just how it is. And yeah, that's the issue that I have. Jill Stein is a bit of a grifter. She disappears for 4 years. She doesn't do any work in the off season. The Green Party, as it is right now, is just not a viable third party. We do have a third party system. I don't think we ought to have a two-party system, but we do. First of all, I think the best way to create more political parties and have widespread ranked choice voting, which would be great for that, to give people more options and candidates, is to vote for Democrats, because there are multiple states now that have ranked choice votings thanks to initiatives by Democrats. So there are Democrats. They're a humongous, huge tent party right now, because right now, and you see this in the sort of trying to be all things to all people campaign that Kamala Harris is running, this party now spans from, or this coalition anyway, now spans from Liz Cheney to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right? Because most people, and I'm not saying a huge number, but most, like a majority, believe that the most important thing that we can do is stop Donald Trump. I agree with that. I think it is absolutely pivotal that... Pivotable? It's pitiable if we elect Donald Trump. It's pivotal that we do not. Anyway. And Christina said, if you don't think that he can win, think again. And yeah, that's the other thing. Like, he can win. The guardrails that were there before are gone. He fired all of the, quote, normal Republicans who somewhat kept him in check and prevented him from doing some crazy things. But Project 2025 is terrifying. He seems very serious about implementing it. Beyond that, beyond the terrible things that he is outright stating that he will do, like be a dictator on day one and go after his political enemies or vocal critics of him or the Supreme Court, he is also promising to unilaterally deport not just illegal immigrants, but legal immigrants who he and J.D. Vance just happen to deem as, well, they should be illegal because they are poisoning the blood of our country. You know, that is literally just Nazi rhetoric. And this is what fascism looks like if it's all the definitions. I think stopping him is really important because he is a useful idiot for way more nefarious people, such as J.D. Vance. You also see that Donald Trump is clearly in pretty serious cognitive decline. He is losing his mind. It's very concerning to see if you haven't watched his rallies. And I think at the rate he's going, it is really a choice for President J.D. Vance, who I think is a uniquely disgusting charlatan of a person. He's gross and will say and do whatever he can to get ahead. I think white nationalism is bad. So anyway, I'll debate you on Trump. Just try not to be a huge asshole or be racist, misogynist, or queerphobic. See it as a personal challenge. But that's kind of the perspective that I'm coming from. It's not that I think that Kamala Harris is amazing, is going to solve all our problems. I don't think that's how you should look at any political candidate. I don't think that you should put your hopes and dreams into your political candidates or look at your political candidates as the answer to all of our problems. I do tend to believe with this useful analogy of elections are like there are two buses. Which one is going to get you closest to where you want to go? Because buses generally don't stop exactly or right in front of your apartment or your house. You got to take a couple of stops because we do live in a democracy. I'll also try to make that argument, although I'm not particularly scholarly on politics, but I do believe in democracy. I think it's really important that we have it. Somebody mentioned the coconut tree thing before. Like, that is one of the things that Colin said that I really liked, was like, we exist in the context of everything that came before us. And I do think people forget that, like, we now live in a world, like the fact that I'm able to live stream on the internet right now, we are able to have, there's going to be hopefully a lively discussion, if anybody calls in, between people of varying political backgrounds. And yet we are all able to speak our mind, and we are all able to disagree using incredible technology that probably all of us have access to, even if we're super poor, because it's just plentiful and it's everywhere. And the roads we drive on, the bridges we have, like, so much of our lives and everything that we take for granted, the good things in our lives, were built by people's blood, sweat, and tears. Like, the right to vote that we have is like, people fought and died to just have the right to vote. Genuinely revolutionary black people and women, gay people have made genuinely revolutionary strides towards gay rights. I think that if you're interested in social progress and social justice and moving the country leftward like I am, you have to be strategic and acknowledge that we live in a world where the vast majority of people don't agree with us. And so it's on us to persuade, to work on a ground level and get people with our ideals into office. So I think democracy makes a lot of sense. So anyway, I'm going to advocate for that. I'm going to advocate for democracy and riding the Kamala bus. And you know what? It's cringy and it's Libby, but whatever. It's cringe to be sincere. And, I kind of reject the idea that people are like, well, they also died for your choice to not vote. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. They already had the right to not vote. That's just an excuse not to participate and to treat yourself as if you're so, like, your own individual morality is so important that you couldn't possibly sully your hands with what? Like, if you vote for Jill Stein, she's openly campaigning on, teaching Democrats a lesson. I guess I'm still just setting the table for where I'm at, so you kind of know what you're getting when you call in. I think, I lost my train of thought because people are saying things. Nobody should be forced to vote. Well, yeah, okay, yeah, nobody should be forced to vote at gunpoint. But I think it's a reasonable expectation. Like, many, if not most democracies, like, you are automatically enrolled to vote just because you're a citizen, and it is compulsory, but you don't have, there's a uncommitted option, or you can write in a name. You don't necessarily have to pick one of the two choices. But anyway, nobody should be shamed if they don't vote. Oh, I disagree. I'm going to shame you if you don't vote. That's part of the reason why we're here. I think it's shameful not to take part in democracy. Everybody in the country, no matter how rich or poor they are, gets the exact same amount of votes. It's won. And the last election was won by a crowd size smaller than your average Taylor Swift concert. Your vote really matters. It becomes a cycle of self-inflicted failure from the left when we disengage from electoral politics, because you have to be willing to make concessions and participate. The last time Jill Stein ran to teach Democrats a lesson and Hillary Clinton lost, it didn't cause some massive recalibration of the Democratic Party towards the left. It's just, creates this crazy coalition we have now where all of the, exiled Republicans who stood up against Trump are now intermingled with us. What the fuck am I even saying? Okay, so the reason why I'm saying all that is because I don't know what. I think democracy is good. I lost my train of thought. It's fine. So here's what's going to happen. I am going to request that people don't turn their cameras on. I'm going to try to limit you from being able to do that. I am just posting a StreamYard join link in chat. Oh, Jakety Jake. There is no right or left. There's only haves and have-nots. Well, that's not true, because there are many right-leaning have-nots. I can attest. And there are many left-leaning haves. Well, here's the good news. I'm also smoking, and so you will be in good company. And if people don't call in, I can just argue with chat. We can read articles and stuff and watch videos like we normally do. But I think it'd be fun. I think people should join. Yeah. It's like joining a Zoom meeting. You might have to be on desktop, though. But you should be able to, like, copy and paste that. It's a pretty small URL. You can do it on mobile. Like, you can join StreamYard on mobile. I've done it before. Also, sorry about my hair. They're out of the gel that I needed. Supply chain issues. Bidenomics, am I right? I don't know. Don't ask me about economics, because I don't know shit. Once we get into numbers... Yes, Dax. I did the fucking thing. I hit the back button on accident. I totally agree with Dax, by the way. I just wish the Green Party would focus more on local elections and less national. Like, that's... Yes, Christina also loudly agrees off camera. Yeah, I agree. Like, the entire way that you build power is by starting, local elections that people aren't really paying attention to, or where there's not opposition running. Like, that's how MAGA... That's why they exist. It's because they built power slowly. Tea Party movement, they started focusing on local elections. Ted Cruz, whose seat is, now potentially in jeopardy. Well, Ted Cruz was a crazy Tea Party guy. He was too right-wing for the Republican Party. But guess what? They focused on winning local elections, and guys like Mike Johnson are now second in line to the presidency. But the left often don't do this, and I just think, I mean, listen, I agree that class issues are primarily the thing that divide us, and that's why I'm all for wealth equality and redistribution and shit. I'm trying to sound all highfalutin and smart, but I don't really know what I'm talking about. Well, Sparky, to be fair, a lot of times I don't actually know what I'm talking about. What do you mean, let me guess you're against voter ID? In what way? What is that? I mean, I think that, like, it should be relatively easy to register to vote. I think a lot of the security measures in terms of... Oh, no, yeah, don't turn your camera on, though. Because... Think call-in show, People's faces don't show up. I want the aesthetics. But what happens when our votes don't matter? What? I don't understand what you're saying. Wait, that's alt wifey. Hey. Wait, now you're on mic. Hello?
Hi.
There you are. Hi, wife.
I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm disrupting. I just entered the studio.
No, you're fine. It's just distracting for me in real life because I can hear you off mic, so there's like a 2-second delay. So our caller's going to be debating you? Yeah, man. That's why it's called Ill-Advised Debate Stream, not Ill-Advised Make Friends Stream. Oh, wifey jumped off. This is nepotism. She's the only person who joins. You know what I see right now is 56 cowards. I almost said yellow-bellied, and then I'm like, wait, is that racist? I don't actually know. I've only ever heard it in Western, so it's probably racist. Requiring an ID to vote is racist because minorities are less likely to have ID. I don't really... I guess I don't really know anything about that issue. Issue free IDs and driver's license to citizens. Then we can require it. What's the debate topic? Try and convince me... Okay, if you disagree with me on... I guess I didn't set this up very well. I'm trying to see if I can put up a banner. Look at banner, Michael. So that I can say... It can just show on screen. But I was thinking, like, okay, if you're voting Jill Stein or Trump or Cornel West, or for whatever libertarian person presumably exists, call in and we'll talk about it, and I'll be nice for a while until I'm not. Sorry, I'm trying to see if there's a way to get like. This is an example of a banner. Click on a banner to show it on screen. Yeah, no shit. Okay. What should I say? Like, debate me on if you're not voting Harris Walls. Add banner. Hey, look, now it says, and this is a flawless banner, debate me if you're not voting Harris. Well, I don't think the instructions really could be clear. This is a perfectly professional debate stream. Yeah, I'm just debating politics. Well, just for a while. I'm also open to people if like theists want to call me, or like spiritual, not religious people want to call, because I'm an atheist. We can try and do that. I just have been watching a lot of debate call-in shows, and I think they seem fun, and I just kind of wanted to do it. What, is that such a crime? This is America, last time I checked, and we have a brave chatter who's joining us now. This is Chandler. Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, Chandler, your mic sounds amazing.
Oh, good. I'm glad. My camera looks amazing too, but you won't allow it. Okay.
It's
So
true.
the truth is, I'm still kind of undecided.
Okay.
But there are some reasons I consider Trump, and now this is like immediately jumping into foreign policy. But basically, he's the only chance for Israel, and I'm very pro-Israel.
Wow. Okay. I don't know why I didn't foresee this debate happening, but I didn't. But okay. I can't pretend to be an expert on this, but yeah, I definitely have opinions.
I'll just briefly give my defense for it then. Israel.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
why
what
is
is
there
it?
the good
Okay.
guy?
Let me ask you this. Because like Joe Biden, I guess let me make my stance clear. Israel as a state, whatever. If they're an ally, that's fine. But the way Netanyahu and the IDF have handled this Gaza situation, I think, is a genocide. And I think that Joe Biden has basically given Netanyahu a blank check. I mean, they're still using our bombs. So to me, it's kind of just short of giving Netanyahu like just free rhetorical reign to do whatever the hell he wants, including this escalating war in the Middle East. I don't really know what more you think needs to be done, like what more support needs to be given.
That's interesting.
I already think
yeah.
it's too much.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I actually don't think Netanyahu. I think he's really been mostly a paper tiger, except for recently, which is like really great. I think he hasn't done anything to protect his people, and that's why this conflict has been going on for his entire sitting as prime minister. So, because they're
So
constantly
you would agree that like part of the issue of October 7th, I mean, obviously not excusing Hamas, but you would agree that part of the issue was Netanyahu's failure in security.
His failure is that he hasn't destroyed Israel's enemies. So he's been too placid for the entire time.
Now, why do you think that enemies can be destroyed, though? Like, why is that what we do with our enemies?
So
like, isn't
we'll
politics something that we created to avoid having needless
So when people say
violence?
like the U.S. created these, created terrorists, in a sense, they're actually right. To make it a little abstract and philosophical, in general, the evil is impotent. Evil can't create anything. So evil is essentially parasitic. It can only exist when there's good. So someone has to build something for a thief to then steal it. There's nothing to steal unless someone made it first. So they do exist by the right of all the moral places like the U.S. and Israel. And why I say they're moral, those states, Israel is one of the only countries. It's the only country in the Middle East that grants its citizens rights. It's essentially a Western ideal country. It's a post-Enlightenment state.
Well, okay,
It's not religious.
you're getting farther away from what I actually wanted to talk about, which is like,
Yeah, but it's 'cause
what
we have
is it that
context.
you think that Trump is going to do? Like, what do you want to see?
So that's why I say I just think Trump won't stop them. And right now, Israel needs to completely destroy its end. What they should have done is leveled Iran 20 years ago, but no one wants
Oh,
to do
brother.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, I guess because
Iran
genocide
this-
is wrong. It's wrong to bomb large groups of people because they're not all the enemy, right?
Yeah, well,
Why are
You
you
could say
okay with
that
that?
for
Would
the
you be
last
okay,
years.
like, okay, because we live in the United States, right? And like, if we had, let's say, a dictator who was an enemy of certain other nations in office, would it be okay for people to start bombing us? Like, just would you be okay being labeled the enemy and just subject to being massacred by some other government because they don't like your leader? Like, I don't even understand why you think this is coherent.
Well,
that you
the
should be
responsibility-
destroying and murdering people.
yeah, I believe the responsibility of a government is to protect its citizens. That's its sole responsibility, to protect the rights of its own people. And they are constantly under a threat by every single neighbor surrounding them, really. But, Hamas and Hezbollah, but everything is funded by Iran. That's where they get the money. So it is Israel's responsibility to completely remove the threat so that its people can enjoy a prosperous life
But
with
that
their
doesn't-
own freedoms.
But that's not
the-
how removing threats work, because you're just talking about like Hamas isn't going to go away. Like, even if you destroyed every Hamas soldier,
Exactly.
it is now an idea and it would live on. And it, like, we beat the Nazis in World War II, but Nazism didn't die. Hitler worship didn't die. And so you can't actually destroy that. All you can do is try and build a better system to prevent that kind of harmful thing from proliferating itself.
I
I
don't
kind
agree
of
with that.
don't. I'm going to be honest with you, Chandler. I don't really want to talk about this. I wasn't really expecting to
Okay.
talk about this.
Yeah,
but that's
neither-
okay. I
do
just
have
am
one
like,
other thing. But I will.
I'm just trying to remain calm because you are basically just like, I don't think that they're killing enough people with bombs.
Yeah,
and
that's
a
what
little
I'm saying.
surprising to hear to me.
Yeah, I believe it is. But yeah, I mean,
Why?
a good example. It's very pessimistic that you think cultures can't change. It seems like you're a little bit almost deterministic.
Excuse me. I'm the one who does think cultures can change. I believe in
Okay.
democracy and persuasion. You're the person who thinks that if somebody is a threat, that they should be killed.
So we talk
So
a lot
it-
about being in a cult. All of the people in
Uh-huh.
those countries are raised in a cult, and they support what's going
You're
on.
okay with them being bombs.
Yeah, so
If they're in the wrong country, you'd be okay with them being leveled, and all the Jehovah's Witnesses would be murdered. That's what you're okay with.
Yeah, I believe people are responsible for their government, and to whatever level of ignorance they might have, that's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, we are facing a reality of two nations. One, Israel, where you can be gay and you can be a woman and drive. Surprising, it's crazy. I know they're wildly liberal over there in Israel, and they don't throw.
I
you
don't
off
know what you're
buildings if you're
talking
gay.
about anymore. I don't know what this
You don't know
has
that
to
Israel
do.
has freedom. I'm saying I support Israel because they're the free country. And
What does
and
that have
people
to
have rights.
do with why you think you should vote? Okay,
Those
I
other
want to
countries-
just I want to
Yeah,
put
yeah.
this off the table.
I'm-
I want to put
yeah,
this
the
off
point
the
was,
table.
I think Trump won't shackle them, and I think Biden constantly calls to stop and to ceasefire and for peace, and so whatever they call equal. You can only kill
Okay.
as many people as they killed. It's ridiculous. They
Uh-huh.
should destroy. They should destroy all threat, and then they would be safe. I have a better topic
Okay.
though.
No, I'm going to redirect, and I want to ask you, okay,
Yeah.
so right now,
You won't let me show my face.
I don't know if you
on
look
the
at.
chat.
No, hang on. I want to set up this question because, like, right now in chat, like you're probably seeing, most people feel that it is absolutely absurd that the United States is funding the bombing of innocent civilians and that it should stop.
I don't call
and
them
part
innocent.
of the issue. Hang on. And part of the issue that a lot of leftists have with Kamala Harris is that she has not outright said that she will stop funding them. She hasn't really committed one way or the other rhetorically, although she, has said kind of platitudes and ceasefire and stuff like that. So what I find kind of I want to take Israel off the table. Let's say, because it's perfectly possible that Kamala Harris continues funding all of your favorite genocides that you love so much. But if you think that the electorate is responsible for their leaders, how can you defend the way that Donald Trump just acts and behaves cognitively? Like, why does that seem like a competent human being, all else being equal?
No, I despise Trump. I think he's the worst president we've ever had.
Yeah,
And I think
you
he's
shouldn't
a
vote for the
complete-
worst president we've ever
Yeah,
had.
I think he's that's just a reflection of the people. So yeah, you get the people do choose their government. Even in a dictatorship, they choose their government by not rising up. And now in Iran and Gaza, it's been generations of that. So there's been plenty of accountability, plenty of time for those people to say, "Hey, we want rights. We don't want to, murder people in the street for being gay or being Jewish." And it's been decades.
What do you think happens when people rise up against authoritarian governments? They get killed.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think you know what you're talking about, Chandler, and I don't really know what we're
So
talking
no
about.
no
anymore.
one's ever overthrown a dictatorship. What do you? Yeah, people get killed. It's ugly. War is ugly too.
I think this
And
is all
there's a war
completely
going on.
performative. We're here talking in the United States. Neither of us have ever known combat.
Yeah, so that's the
And-
only reason I would go for Trump.
And
is what I'm
you
saying.
are just adopting this absurd, like, war hawk, kill all the bad guys rhetoric when
I
you
think-
would never sign up to do that killing. You would never have the ability to do it. And it's absolutely ridiculous and repulsive to me that you are defending the mass slaughter of civilians. Like, this is so far away from what I thought we would be talking about. I'm just honestly shocked.
Sure. So here's
what
why
I'm
it's
hearing.
not so abstract that it's like detached from anything.
No, I agree. It's not abstract at all. It's very
Yeah.
simple. What you're saying is morally reprehensible, and I am going to end the call. But I think we were able to keep
okay.
things successful. But Jesus fucking Christ, that was absolutely nightmarish. Oh my God. Okay. I don't know why I didn't foresee that. I don't know why I didn't. I just didn't think that there was a real contingent of Trump voters who were like, I really hope I really hope that he lets Israel do even more bombings. Good God. Okay. Well. Oh, now you know we're getting serious because Dax is logged in to the moderator account. Yeah. That was really fucking disturbing. I'm really, really shocked. Okay. I don't really know. All right. We got somebody who's trying to connect. God, you missed a lot. We missed a very interesting call. Well, listen, it's all uphill from here. Yeah, Jesus. I'll be honest. Like, I'm really bummed out that, like, the first thing that we're talking about is, like, a guy calling and defending genocide. Like, that's fucking... Oh, don't be ridiculous. Of course you knew it was controversial. Like, don't be absurd. You don't think we don't see trolls like that all the time? Like, that's really... I mean, if you're sincerely surprised that people are surprised by what you're saying, I don't really know what to tell you. Human life is precious. Humans have dignity and don't deserve to be referred to as like enemies who are bombed. Absolutely crazy. Crazy way to talk, crazy way to think. It's genocidal rhetoric. It's the kind of thing that I mean, I don't know. I can't even. Oh, wifey, what's up? Her mic is muted.
Oh, here I am. So I wanted to talk about, or just raise the question
Yeah.
about what is specifically important to keep in mind in this election as far as policy, as far as freedoms, taking it, like Israel off the table, since we know where that conversation led. So I just want to raise the question: when you're going to the polls and casting your vote for whoever it is, what is it in your mind that you're thinking about that's the most important, like policy or uh, pioneering that Harris or Trump has or hasn't done?
Yeah, yeah, like stuff that is on the ballot. Like if both candidates really are the same, which honestly, oh, you know what, babe, can you mute when I'm talking because it's picking up
Oh,
the echo on mic. And actually, I can mute you from my end when I'm talking. Okay, now I think we're good. All right, all right. So that was honestly kind of a surprising illustration on how apparently Trump and Harris are very different on Israel. So apparently some people are very. Gubber says that you're a hero, Christina.
thank you. I appreciate that very nice compliment.
I think that we're gonna have to not do this because it's like the juggling of the mic feedback. I'm surprised at how sensitive this microphone is. It's like picking you up from all the way across the house. But anyway, I agree with my wife, who I agree is a hero. But
Let me get off of this so that way you can answer my question.
you'll take your answer off the air.
No, the question still stands, but I'm going off the air.
Okay. Yeah, no. So I agree. Let's take that off the table going forward. I think that it is. All right. Maybe we should just switch to theist debates. God damn it. I really just didn't think that was going to be the take. Like, in my mind, envisioning a Trump supporter calling, I was imagining them talking about, I don't know. I wasn't really thinking foreign policy because I tend to think that MAGA doesn't really actually care about foreign policy. It's kind of like performative. We're just going to say whatever Trump is saying. That seemed like a really passionate belief that murdering civilians is good on a mass scale. So that's bad. But I don't think that both candidates are the same on that issue, just because, at the very least, rhetorically, Kamala is saying that like the fighting needs to end, then that there does need to be a ceasefire, and like whatever. Like she's saying the words. We don't know for sure whether or not when she gets into office that she would actually break with Biden, which I think is unfortunate. But I do think we should take that off the table if we're going to have anybody else call in. So let's do call in. Oh wait, shit. I got to paste another invite in chat because it probably disappears really fast. Yeah, let's just talk about this for a second. Yes, of course you did. Of course you did. When you say you think Netanyahu, his big problem is that he hasn't destroyed all his enemies, you're talking about murdering people. You're talking about, you said that he should level the Gaza Strip and Lebanon and all that shit. Like, I mean, what are you even talking about? That is what you're doing. Like, you have dehumanized what you view as the enemy so much that you don't even think that that's what you're talking about. This is the danger of dehumanizing this. And by the way, you have zero defenders in this chat, and there are Trump supporters watching this. Like, you were so clear in what you were saying that nobody agrees with you. Like, you need to re-examine what the hell you're talking about, because you just shocked the shit out of it. And honestly, like, really, yeah, okay, let's just move past it. All right, so, yeah, also say he's going to end all the wars, so how's that going to work? Well, I guess he's going to end it by, there can't be any wars if everyone else is dead. Very smart. It's a really good point. This is why I was more hoping that maybe, oh, thank God, Bo. Thank God, Bo. This is the first time I've ever been happy to see Bo in my entire life. That's not true. He's just been a real, buddy. He knew that we needed a little animal love.
Our spiritual paradise is a place that has many harmless animals.
Now, what do we...
I now don't know how to get this comment off the screen. What have I done? Okay, there we are. There we are. Yeah, exactly. We're privileged to just move past this topic, but we're under no obligation to talk about everything all the time. We're not going to solve that crisis here, but I think maybe I could mention or convince people to vote. Here's my pitch. people that believe what Chandler says, they are going to vote. So if you sit at home, you're just kind of letting them take the reins. I think that's bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no compromise if you think God is on your side. That's what me and Christina were talking about before I went on air. It's just like, once you get that kind of religious zealotry involved, which is the danger of Trump, by the way, it is the white nationalism and this evangelical, like, Christofascism stuff. Like, once you get that religiosity combined in the authoritarianism, it's so scary. Let's see. Okay, Rita is trying to connect. Okay. I wanted to, while that is happening, let me, I'm going to pull up this article that I thought would be good to read while people figure out how to get connected. This is why this was a test stream idea, by the way. It's why I titled it Ill-Advised, because I knew that it was. Now, support journalism and all that, but I am using the paywall remover. The amount of paywalls on journalistic websites is ridiculous, but this article is really great. Not ready yet? Okay. Well, folks, I'm just going to keep spamming chat with this invite. I'm going to tempt people, and just know that it can't go worse than the last one. And even then, I think I was pretty calm, all things considered. Thank God for marijuana. And by the way, I would love to get more people calling in about politics. Maybe that killed the boner, but we can use an unfortunate turn of phrase. But we could also get theist callers in, because I know we got some believers out there. We got some believers out there, and I'm using a condescending Southern accent. I want to be clear, by the way, that when I do Southern accents, I'm not making fun of people with Southern accents. I got like a comment one time from someone who was like upset, like, you make fun of Southern people all the time. And I'm like, everybody, like, half the people in my life use Southern accents, and people in my family do. I've heard people say, many people are saying that I've got a twang sometimes. I don't think so, but I do it out of love, to be totally clear. All right, we do have a caller. Oh, thank God. Stopped us from becoming a real loner box stream and just reading articles. Shout out to a real one. But hey, we've got someone. Is it Arde?
Yes, Artie.
Artie, okay. You know what I meant to do is have people say their pronouns and stuff.
She, her.
Okay, cool.
You can start now.
What's up? All right, Artie. She, her. What do you have to say for yourself? Are you going to vote in the election, or maybe have you already if there's early voting?
I'm in Washington State, and I vote every year, and I never vote Republican or Democratic.
Okay.
I'm always an independent voter, and I just don't see how this two-party system even makes any sense, because they're all controlled by the same oligarchy. Like, if you follow the money for either campaign or any news source, or all of it is all controlled by the same oligarchy, and they're keeping everybody divided between all of these topics when it's really a class war.
I would agree that the fundamental, like, conflict at the heart of our society is a class war. I agree with that. I guess my first disagreement, or maybe question, is like, why do you feel that it's worth voting for the Green Party then? Because they, by their own admission, don't have a chance of winning.
Well, I didn't say Green Party.
Or
Just
sorry,
like-
maybe not
yeah.
Green. Sorry, Green Party. My bad. Yeah.
Just an independent party. I guess
Okay.
I've taken it upon myself to encourage everybody that I talk to vote third party, because the more third party voters and the non-voters, if they did vote third party, then it would create the percentage needed to actually be on a ballot, like to actually be considered.
I guess my issue with that, is that has just consistently proven not true. And even when there's been high turnouts of third parties, it does not cause that to happen, because the way that people build power politically is not to start at the presidential level. And I think that's part of the issue, is that most people in our country are not politically engaged at all. They don't pay attention to the news or our systems of democracy, or how they work. So they're just kind of tuned out, like they're consciously tuned out of politics. And so I think a lot of people just don't know, like they just aren't informed, but they could be persuaded. And that's something that, like, people praise Trump for doing, is getting a lot of people motivated who didn't normally vote. I think he was able to weaponize, racism to do that, but he also pointed out that grievance that rural voters had, that they were abandoned by the system, and then he channels that in a negative direction. But I think if, like, an independent, I would want that party to be progressive. Like, if independent
Yes.
politicians ran at lower levels, kind
Yeah.
of stirred up people in a more positive way, you could build power, and then you could build that third party system.
So that leads me to the second part of my problem with this whole system, is that, like what you just said, 7 sentences ago, was that even if you do get enough people to vote third party, which we've seen before, aka Bernie, who did actually win, they just take it from you anyways. Therefore, I'm left with this nihilistic, like, well, what does it even matter anyways if your vote is just
Well,
going to be overthrown?
I don't agree that that's true. I mean, Bernie did not win. By definition, it was a primary, and he got fewer votes. Now, people take issue with the fact that all these Democrats dropped out to make it a tighter race, and to, pour a bunch of money into anti-Bernie ads. But I think the reality is, like, his campaign, it underperformed. Like, if you look at the tabs of, like, how his campaign went, he needed a young vote turnout that he just didn't get. Like, and black voters just overwhelmingly went to Biden instead. Now, you can say that that's not fair, but it's just what happened. He didn't persuade enough people. And so I think that the two-party system is bad, but it is the system, and it's the only system we have. And just because the system sucks doesn't mean there's no point in trying to reform it, or trying to push it in a direction where that reform can even happen. And I don't think that reform can happen if Trump is president. And I think that the only way to stop Trump from being president is to vote Kamala.
Okay, and you also feel that it can't happen, that reform can't happen from a third party. So really, anything has to be inside the Democratic Party to make any logistical change.
I don't know that it can't come from a third party, but it can't come from a third party that springs up out of nowhere. And just starts trying to, like, now. Like, I don't think there's just an off chance that an overwhelming majority of Americans are like, you know what? It is going to be Jill Stein. I don't know if that's who you're voting for, but, like, I think some people have in their heads, like, well, if we just convince enough people, and I'm like, well, unfortunately, she literally just can't get enough electoral votes, so that can't happen. So I think one thing that would be good is to get rid of the Electoral College, and a lot of Democrats want to get rid of that. So I think it would be worth trying to at least pursue that, and, like, push towards ranked choice voting. Those allow for conditions where, like, third parties could thrive, but there's a lot of, like, issues with even just getting it started. That's kind of my layman's perspective on it, but I could be wrong.
Oops. I disappeared.
I hear you. You're good. I just muted myself because I was taking a sip.
Gulp, gulp. Oops, I lost my train of thought then. That was fun. Keep it up.
Electoral college and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about.
I guess I was just, it's like every 4 years, it's the same. It really feels like a bunch of gaslighting, and it's just the same rhetoric every 4 years. Like, well, you got to, lesser of the evil, and blah, blah, blah. It's the same talking points, and it kind of makes you feel like you're insane, and that no change really makes any sense anyways, because you can vote one way, and they're just going to do whatever they want anyways, because they control the system.
I guess that, to me, I don't agree with, because, like, I do understand what you're saying about like there's not a lot of like people pushing and then getting big systemic changes because it's like, oh, and I hear a lot of people being like, well, every election say it's the most important election ever. I happen to think that that is just true, that every election is the most important because it is a true inflection point in history. Like, things really do change depending on who is in charge when certain world events happen. Like, the response to 9/11 would have been different if George W. Bush hadn't been president. And if a climate change activist, Al Gore, had been president in the year 2000, as opposed to George W. Bush, who then, treated us to 8 years of Republican anti-climate change rhetoric and all that bullshit, like, we're living in a fundamentally different reality if a different person is president, right? And if more people voted for Hillary, if less people voted third party, and Hillary had won, then Roe v. Wade wouldn't have been overturned. Hillary, unlike Kamala Harris, unfortunately, Hillary actually was running on universal health care and Medicare for all. And, I think the world would be a better place if we got that. I would think that would be better.
Agreed.
And, when I look at the span of my life, I also do see a lot of positive changes. Maybe not necessarily through politics, but just, through societal changes. But I think that, social systems also do have a really positive impact on people's lives. Even just things like schools being funded, public schools. I'm very concerned about Trump trying to get rid of the public education system generally, getting rid of the Department of Education as part of Project 2025. And he just talked about it in a speech recently. And that kind of thing, you can tangibly improve what a child's life is if they go to a school that has great after school programs that can take care of kids while their parents are working, and kids have access to extracurriculars and stuff, free school lunches, things like you can tangibly improve material conditions while working towards bigger. That kind of tends to be, it's not very satisfying or radical, but that tends to be the granular way that my brain thinks. Sorry, I guess I'm just rambling.
No, that was fun. I forgot I was on the camera thing. Okay, I'm gonna go. My chili is burning, but that was great.
Okay.
I'll stick around.
Thank you for cleansing the palate.
Oh,
this was great.
Yeah.
Good combo.
No worries. Okay.
Good combo for sure. All right. Artie with the save. Good combo. I totally understand the frustration there. I agree that our electoral system sucks. I tend to feel well, we just have to work to fix it. But that's easy for me to say. I guess that's also, I just think the voting is pretty easy. People try to put up roadblocks, and they wouldn't be trying to take away people's rights to vote if it wasn't important. But it's still, even with a lot of roadblocks, it's way easier to do than a revolution. And I don't want to have to go to a war or worry about stormtroopers coming into my house. This would be interesting, RoboQ Man, if you know stuff about the Electoral College. It would be interesting to hear somebody articulate to me why it's good, because it seems totally outdated to me. And in fact, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the Electoral College was a way to it's a relic of slavery. It's a relic of part of our population can't vote because they're only 2/3 of a human or whatever, or 3/5, that kind of thing. But see, I don't disagree that both sides are complicit in American imperialism, but I just don't think that's one of the things that voting in a presidential election can change. Best case scenario, Kamala Harris ends up siding with the majority of Democratic voters, by the way, that we need to stop arming Israel. That's not an unpopular policy even. And I think a big part of that is because of people raising their voices, not just Palestinians in the way that we can see this stuff play out live so horrifically. I think that fundamentally changes what war is like in the modern era. But I think also just people passionately raising voices about it. we could, like, it is a broadly popular position to stop arming this guy. And, like, Netanyahu isn't even popular in his own country anymore. It's to everyone's benefit. I mean, if you can have someone like Chuck Schumer saying that Israel needs to hold an election to get rid of Benjamin Netanyahu, it's not even that far of a reach to think that Democrats would do it. But I don't think that that's going to solve the issue of, like, colonialism and imperialism and giving countries bombs that where they can carry out atrocities and bypassing Congress to do so. In the case of Mr. Joseph Robinette Genocide Biden. Speaking of revolutionaries, better watch out. There's a certain doomsday cult that wants to make a certain video about a bunker true. That's a plot of a novel I have the plan to follow up. Not a Cult is a group that basically, you know, they're going to be the group where all their prophecies are right because they're really going to bring about Armageddon, which is a real thing some cults have tried to do. Which country has an electoral system that actually works, though? I don't know. I can't pretend to be smart and know shit. Bush also gave us No Child Left Behind, and it was shit. Hillary was a uniquely bad candidate. Yes, I think yes. It was a sign of Democrats' arrogance and sort of them reaping the consequences of moving away from labor. It used to be that Democrats were for labor and Republicans were for corporations, and that just slowly ceased being the case. And frankly, a big part of that, well, Clinton was a huge part of that, but Obama was also not particularly friendly to the left in a lot of ways. He's sort of all over the place in terms of his ideology. And Hillary was seen rightfully as it would be a continuation of the Obama administration, and Democrats seem totally out of touch with the fact that the people who became the Trump base, who used to be Democrats, you know, working class union people, they were sick of the system. They felt abandoned by it because like neoliberal capitalism didn't work out great for them and trickle down economics didn't work great. And so then this con man can come along and take advantage of vulnerable people, which is what cult leaders do. You know, I'll be honest, Electoral College did not make sense to me in school. I asked a lot of questions about it. By the way, sorry to Rita, I see you, but it says device is not connected. So it's not letting me let you join. If you wanted to talk. Yes. Like, to me, my dream, I have a dream. It's not particularly ambitious. It's to have a slightly successful YouTube channel, and it's for, like, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to run in 2028, which I think it seems to me her whole career has been gearing up for that. And I think that even though, I don't know, I think that, like, the online left overstates the degree to which, like, AOC is sold out or whatever. I think that she is a great example of somebody who has, like, really never rhetorically watered down her message. And she's still so much better at communicating with voters than most sitting politicians. She's clearly, like, a generational talent, genuine, progressive, and I think that if she runs, like, if Kamala is just more of kind of like a centrist Democrat, that's not inspiring. And inspiring people can't win elections. Sorry, uninspiring people can't win elections anymore. This has been my theory even before Biden. Well, okay, let's say even before October 7th. Like, Biden did some really good, like, progressive domestic legislation, and had just, like, endorsed the United Auto Workers, like, crossed over the picket line. Like, he was doing pretty good, actually. But I still just, you know what the vibes were like. Nobody was like, yay, Joe Biden, except for kind of, like, I don't know, Midas touch enjoyers, just sort of, like, centrist milquetoast Democrat types. And, like, I like Joe Biden just fine because I'm boring and I think presidents are neat. But then that all changed, right? But I think the fundamental issue of Biden was that he just was not inspiring. Nobody is inspired by an old guy who says, folks, I'm a capitalist. That's not the right vibe. And Kamala, at least at the beginning of her campaign, understood the vibe of the country. And I think Tim Walz is very good at that. I was really impressed, actually. I was another cringe lib moment for me as I was on that White Dudes for Harris call. I was curious. Not a lot of white dude spaces, really, and that's a key issue for me as a voter. No, I'm kidding. But I was curious, and like Tim Walz said, like, never shrink back from your progressive values. One man's socialism is another man's neighborliness. And I couldn't fucking believe it. I was hearing a mainstream Democrat who, as it turns out, is the vice presidential nominee, just talking about that in an unambiguous way. I do think that if you look at what is mainstream acceptable behavior for progressives now versus the Obama years, like, we are more progressive, generally speaking. I think it is more cool to be against capitalism and stuff. But anyway, what was I fucking rambling about? I think that it would be great to have a candidate that genuinely moves the party to the left. And it really remains to be seen with Kamala. I just don't know. Like, there's a world where she's downplaying her bona fides. And she's like, I haven't actually flip-flopped from 2019. I just was going to say whatever I needed to say to win. I had to appease the Republicans. And I appointed Tim Walz because that dude's progressive as fuck. And he did a bunch of cool stuff. Maybe she's doing a long con. I have literally no idea. I know, these fucking Mad Iglesias types of the world ruining our promising candidates with policy wonk bullshit. Sean, you showed up late. I think we smacked them down. Honestly, like, why do I do this? I don't actually like confrontation when it's not in good fun. And it felt like when I started this, like, oh, this will all be in good fun. And for that to be the first call, it was really shocking. And so, like, part of me kind of feels bad for Chandler, but, like, I don't know, man. He just said the most disgusting shit I've ever heard. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All right, I'm going to be boring and read this article. I think that this article really just fucking articulated everything I've been feeling. This is by a really great writer. This is on The Atlantic. A real Kamala Harris type publication, and that you really can't pin down its ideology particularly well, but they got a lot of good writers there. Charlie Warzel, it says, I'm running out of ways to explain how bad this is. The subtitle is, What's Happening in America Today is Something Darker Than an Information Crisis. Oh, sorry, something darker than a misinformation crisis. I think, by the way, I'm going to need a long sip of water.
My church had been giving me ass to drink, but now I was freely receiving, the water of life.
Good job. Worth it. Always worth it. Oh, the fucking nightmare scenario. Oh, we could talk polling. Vibes. Oh, I just want to talk about politics with people I'm hanging out with on the internet. Okay, this article is pretty amazing. They articulated this existential fear that I've had better than anyone. And this was just published last week. The truth is, it's getting harder to describe the extent to which a meaningful percentage of Americans have disassociated from reality. As Hurricane Milton churned across the Gulf of Mexico last night, I saw an onslaught of outright conspiracy theorizing and utter nonsense racking up millions of views across the internet. The posts would be laughable if they weren't taken by many people as gospel. Among them, InfoWars' Alex Jones, who claimed that Hurricanes Milton and Helene were weather weapons unleashed on the East Coast by the U.S. government, and Truth Seeker accounts on X that posted photos of condensation trails in the sky to baselessly allege that the government was spraying Florida ahead of Hurricane Milton in order to ensure maximum rainfall, just like they did over Asheville. As Milton made landfall, causing a series of tornadoes, a verified account on X reposted a TikTok video of a massive funnel cloud with the caption, "What is happening in Florida?" The clip, which was eventually removed, but had been viewed 662,000 times as of yesterday evening, a week ago when they posted this, turned out to be from a video of a CGI tornado that was originally published months ago. Scrolling through these platforms, watching them fill with false information, harebrained theories, and doctored images, all while panicked residents boarded up their houses, struggled to evacuate, and prayed that their worldly possessions wouldn't be obliterated overnight, offered a portrait of American discourse almost too bleak to reckon with head on. This is the shit I've been feeling. Well, hang on. We got an interesting caller. Pause in our low-key Loner Box stream. We have a caller. Sorry, Rita. If you're joining on mobile, sometimes it is weird. Hang on, let me set this aside because we got a caller who seems like it might be a troll or Chandler, with a big fake mustache on, but I can't even read this full name. Pimo JW, who won? And then I can't read the rest of your name.
Oh, okay. Wants to vote.
Who wants to vote? Cool. Hi, Pimo JW, who wants to vote.
Can you hear me?
I can.
I'm on headphones, but I'm hearing you through the phone, so I wasn't sure if it come through okay.
Yep. Yeah, no, you sound good.
Okay, cool. I've been watching you for years, or however long you've been on. I don't remember when you first started, but
years, unfortunately, years.
Yeah.
If you can believe it.
I'm really battling with this because there was actually a question from Breeders in 1999 that says it's a conscience matter.
Interesting. Let me see if I can find this.
It was, I just Google searched it and it came up to the Westover Library. It's the 1999 Watchtower, 11-1, page 28 to 29. But I just Googled it. Questions from Breeders. I Googled WT, questions from Breeders about voting.
This one right here. Hey.
Can't see on this. I'm on my phone, so that you're.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I found it. I got it on the screen, actually. Yeah.
So it says it's a conscience matter, but then it, like they typically do, gives all the examples of why you probably should decide no, but still says
right. Yeah.
And then, what if you're forced to because it's the law? Well, then it's up to you what you do. You can go into the golden booth and not do anything. No one's going to know, sort of scenario.
Right.
However, I was disfellowshipped for decades, and when I got reinstated, I was still a PMO then, but long story, I'm disabled, and there was no way I could survive without help. And I couldn't survive on my own in the world with no family or anything support. So I knew the congregation would help, and it worked. They survived the pandemic. But anyway.
Yeah.
They asked me about politics. I live in a state where I don't want to give away where I am, but I live in a U.S. state where it's a big deal, and it's like every commercial, every ad, right? And so
right.
They asked how I feel about it, and I said, well, I had heard that it was a conscience matter now, which is referring to this article, but I couldn't quote where it was from. And so I voted in the past. I voted for Obama. I waited in line in the hot sun for hours. It was early voting where I lived there. I don't live in that same place now. And I really, really want to vote this time, but the problem is I live in a state where it's public record, and anyone with your name and birthday and city you're in can find, that you're on the registry.
Yeah.
And so, while I live so far away from my assigned congregation, there's zero chance of being seen at the location.
Right. But they could see that you're registered anyway.
Correct. And the thing is, I'm already kind of being soft shunned because being disabled, I can't really participate. Similar to your story, right? Like, I don't want to get into TMI, but I have to be close to a bathroom at all times. I can't participate in stuff. I was doing Zoom for field service and stuff, but eventually I got to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore because I know it's not true. And I kind of have a pass because of my health issues, but on the other hand, I'm not included in any congregation activities because even if they invite me, I can't physically go anyway. So I'm attending on Zoom because I still have that option, but in any case, there's a chance that they will check, and then I'm kind of toast. But I'm also on the verge of just throwing the towel in anyway because of the UFO UAP issue, which I've heard zero content creators talking about who are in the JW or XW space, which is very interesting. It's been
What is
completely
it?
ignored. But it's actually
What is it?
something they're talking about.
Say what it was again?
The UFO UAP issue. So I don't know if you're aware, but in 2023, Congress held open hearings and closed-door sessions regarding UFOs.
Okay. Yeah, I remember this.
Then there was legislation that got partially passed and mostly gutted, the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023. And then they tried to put it up again for 2024. It didn't even pass the first hurdle. So I follow it closely. But what's happening is, like, on Zoom, after meetings, breakout rooms where people talk, when the hearings and stuff were going on last year, I was actually saying, hey, is anybody else excited about this? Isn't this really interesting? Trying to get a way to start the conversation without getting myself in trouble. And people would
The way we PMOs do.
Right. They're really curious because the thing is, it kind of debunks their entire theology. The government, so many whistleblowers coming forward saying, yes, this is true. Yes, this is real. Roswell really happened, blah, 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 yada, yada. I followed this since I was a child. And I was told by the sister who studied with me, well, they must be demons. And I can easily debunk that. So I'm kind of waiting for them to bring right dealing with it. But I'm at the point where I'm about to get outed anyway. I have one friend in the congregation who knew me when I came in as a kid. I have an interesting story, but that's a further day, because I got found on the door-to-door work as a teenager, and I was aboard again. That never happens, right?
Oh wow, yeah. But okay, so the voting thing though.
Yeah.
Let's get to that. So what is your interest as far as the election goes? Which candidate is better on the UFO information disclosure?
See, that I am actually okay. Very
I really
good
don't
question.
know.
I don't know if Kamala was ever interested in the topic, or I don't think she was briefed, because Biden was offered to be briefed by Dr. Stephen Greer, who's a big part of the network. He's been in the for UAP disclosure, and he actually,
Is that the guy that testified?
No,
but
he was behind the scenes briefing Congress, but he was not one of the people who testified. He's been behind the scenes. Like, he's worked with Tom Burchett and some of the other people on the committee investigating in Congress. So I have ADHD as well, and my brain goes all over the place. So
You're fine. No, yeah, okay.
Apologies if I get sidetracked. But I don't know if Kamala's briefed at all, because Biden was offered to be briefed and wasn't interested. And then I heard he was actually, like, his handlers didn't think he could handle the issue, so he didn't get to.
Whoa.
Trump got offered to be briefed, but he was like,
It'll explode his brain.
Yeah. People are always saying, well, why don't they just, they want the president that's going to tell the truth. The problem is, it's actually, the issue is classified under the Atomic Energy Act, and it goes back to decades. They can't just tell the public because it's considered like a nuclear secret, basically, because of the technology, the way the crafts move. They can't just come out and say it. But they're trying to take steps in Congress, and part of the UAP Disclosure Act was to work with religions to try to roll this out slowly without everybody going into ontological shock, because they were afraid of civil unrest, mass suicide, etc.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, this is hilarious, because the organization, they feel like they're not going to work with governments on this, but they're going to miss the boat if all of a sudden the whole public realizes, oh, we're not alone. Our entire theology is wrong. Everything we were ever told is wrong. So I don't
Interesting.
know
Okay, so
for that specific issue. But
yeah.
I want to vote for Harris 100%. And like I heard somebody say they would vote
Oh, good.
for, maybe it was one of the, it might have been Matt Dillahunty who said, I would vote for a reanimated corpse if overthrown.
Yes.
For like a,
that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Let's get a warm body in there who isn't a fascist,
but the
and then we'll worry about other stuff.
Like potential, like, entire social structure just to vote, and would it even make a difference? Because I'm in a state that's considered part of the quote blue wall, but that doesn't guarantee anything. So
well, I think that it's important no matter what, because there's no sure thing, and I think polling is just consistently proven to be rather unreliable, especially now. They're only as good as their methods of collecting data, and I think there's just, we don't really know what's going to happen. We just know it's going to be close. So I would do it. I think somebody in chat pointed out, because I got caught being on the voter rolls, but that was it. Like, it was just that I had registered. And honestly, I think I gave kind of like a cockamamie excuse, like, no, I must have just accidentally signed something. I don't know. Like, I probably just made something up, and no one can really ding you on that. Now, my understanding doctrinally, I was trying to pull up the Elder Shepherd book, and then I got distracted by this, what I was not expecting, which was a discussion of UFOs and UAPs. But I'm pretty sure that the Shepherd book is sneaky about it. Like, they refer to stuff as non-neutral activity. That, because they don't want to have it in writing that, like, you are not allowed to cast your vote that was given to you by the founding father. Like, they're not going to say something like that, but they are like, they call it non-neutral activity, and that kind of thing can get you in trouble. But I think once the soft shutting starts, and I don't like to, I don't know why I feel comfortable giving political advice, but not life advice about JW stuff. But I do think that once that starts, you might as well rip the Band-Aid off. I do. Now, it depends on your family situation, which we don't have time to get into because we do have another person who wants to chime in. But I think that it is worth it because it's mutually assured destruction if you see another witness there, because then you got to be like, well, what are you doing here? So they can't say anything. It's like if you see another JW at a strip club, what are they going to say? And then I think if they do catch you, you can pretty easily be like, I don't know, maybe when I got my driver's license renewed, I got signed up, I don't know. Or you can just be like, yeah, you know what? I did, because I looked at Watchtower Online Library and it said it was a conscience matter. Is that going to be a problem? Like, I think if you want to go to bat, that would be a really interesting thing to go to bat for.
I would definitely, if that happened, if somebody looked it up, which they would only be doing if they were trying to find a reason or an excuse to get me in trouble, then, the screen changed. Can you still hear me?
Sorry about that. I clicked something and it refreshed the page and kicked me out.
Gotcha.
This is why there was one of them. This is one of them test streams I was talking about. All right. Well, okay. I think we had a really good discussion. I want to end it there. Thank you so much for calling in. I just realized with my ADHD that I've left another person on the line here for a while. So I'm going to let them in. All right. But thank you so much for calling in.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
This is fun. Bye. Boy, I don't know anything about UAPs. I don't know why. Maybe I'll get into chat comments after I talk to our next guest. I really just have never been super interested in UFO claims in real life. I don't know why, because Close Encounters of the Third Kind is maybe my favorite movie. I love First Contact stories. I love them as sci-fi stories, but I've just never been into that kind of stuff in real life. And I watched a little bit of those hearings and they just seemed kind of I don't know. It didn't compel me, but I couldn't tell you what UAP means off the top of my head, so I don't know. All right, next person is Logo. Hello.
Yo, can you hear me?
I can. Thank you so much for being patient, by the way.
No, it's all good. I understand. Running a stream can be quite the challenge sometimes.
It's a one-man operation here, folks. By the way, you said you might not want to talk about politics. What should I change the banner to say? Did you want to talk about God or something?
Yeah, I'd be interested to talk about God, theism. I guess maybe...
the Logos.
Yeah, maybe you can give people an update in terms of your current standing in theology, which I'm not sure if it's changed.
Sure. Okay, well, let me do this. I'm going to hide this. Does God exist? Look, I'm going to be a real streamer. Look how many question marks. How could you not click on this now? Clearly not how clickbait works. Okay. All right, cool. So you are a believer in some kind of God. What does logos mean? Remind me what that means. Just
Usually it
the
refers.
originator.
Yeah, usually it refers to the. I mean, if you keeping track, like the second person of the Godhead in the Trinity. If you're a Trinity
Okay.
enjoyer.
I must admit I enjoy the Trinity sometimes. I dipped my toes in when I was deconstructing and everything. Nothing wrong with it. Water's great.
Yeah. So
I don't think it's true, but okay. So where are you at? You are a believer in a God of some sort?
I would say I'm sympathetic to certain arguments for theism. Am I like a full blown theist? I don't know. I like the philosophical inquiries more than I
Okay.
the beliefs themselves.
Interesting. Yeah, I would say that defined me for a while. Before I was like, well, maybe let me try and like read the Bible, like kind of, I don't know, check out Christianity from a more non-denominational liberal perspective. So what? So I don't know. Would you describe yourself as like agnostic or?
I usually tell people that I am, in quotes, an atheist because whatever version of theism I give them, they're going to attribute to atheism because it's just incoherently like abstract, and they're probably just going to be like, yeah, I don't know what any of that means. So I usually just tell them I'm an atheist just because I don't like these type of conversations.
Okay,
But
interesting.
if I do sit down with someone and I tell them my beliefs, then I will explicitly call myself a theist, or at least sympathetic to theism.
Okay. Well, tell me, what's your pitch? Because I really have no deistic beliefs. I would consider myself an atheist. I would be happy to be convinced that there is some kind of creative entity out there. I love that kind of stuff. I would love for it to be true, but I'm just not convinced. That's kind of where I'm at, and I tend to actively disbelieve it, as opposed to like holding out a candle. Like I truly don't really, short of being interested in why people believe the things they believe, it's not really a part of the like calculus of my everyday life, if that makes sense.
Yes. I think that's actually quite healthy for most people. I don't think that most people generally should be questioning the foundations to what you could consider like 90% of all their held beliefs, right? Like most people
Right.
act in accordance to whatever presuppositions they have, whether that be like, oh, I act as if I have free will, I act as if morality exists, etc. So I usually,
Okay, yeah.
it doesn't really matter what you believe. Most people function perfectly fine without deep inquiry into that.
Yeah, I sometimes get a little like I'm always impressed listening to really like when I listen to the shows like The Line, and they're just like able to really eloquently articulate like logical fallacies and like kind of use big words to describe why God doesn't make sense. I'm like, boy, that just like isn't even the way I think really. Like it feels bad to say, but it is almost more vibes. Not that like I've gone through the evidence, but it's not something where I'm. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
The weed's really kicking in.
I was going to say, no, I was actually going to say, I think even theists, I have a bone to pick with like really confident theists who are like,
yes,
yeah, God exists and it's like definitive, and here are like the 100 proofs. Yeah, I think that's kind of corny.
Yeah, the kind of like intellectual hoity-toity Christians who are like, well, you don't know about what Josephus said here. Like, kind of like they know so much more than your average Christian, but expect or act as if all Christians have like a perfectly rational reason for believing what they believe in.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of where I try to avoid that, and I try to explicitly tell people like, yeah, I find these beliefs reasonable, but I don't one, I don't usually try to convince people. I think I usually try to debate or maybe even argue with people who I find you could say almost like the atheistic counterpart, right? So like atheists who are like particularly like very dogmatic about their untheistic beliefs.
Yes.
And so yeah, kind of like the opposite, the foil to the theist, the confident theist.
Yeah, the asshole atheist. That's a tough one. Well, okay. Did you have some kind of question or challenge you wanted to pose to me? Just because then I otherwise I would just be shooting the shit.
Yeah, no, let me pose it this way. Do you think, because I would counter, and obviously in the negative, I'm wondering if you would counter in the affirmative for this question, which would be, do you think that debunking Jehovah Witness theology debunks Christianity generally? So just because Jehovah Witness Christianity appears to be false, does that then follow that all Christianity is false?
Does debunking JW doctrines debunk Christianity broadly? Is that kind of what you're... I think that's sort of my goal in the way I construct my videos, is to just deconstruct magical thinking and try and at least, like, if no matter what dogmatic religion you belong to, you can sort of hear echoes of that. I guess I wouldn't say that it does, though, because frankly, I do notice listening to theist conversations and debates and stuff, the lingua franca of Christians, mainstream Christians, is just so different. And like believing that Jesus is God and believing in the Trinity, that alone just makes so many Christians who watch my channel will be like, yeah, but nothing you're saying actually applies to me, because I don't even believe in Jehovah is God. Like, they're totally wrong about who God is. I get a lot of comments from Christians who are like, but the saddest thing about what they do is they don't tell people about Jesus Christ. That's the problem with Jehovah's Witnesses. And so I think that it doesn't necessarily, because there are so many different kinds of branches of Christianity. There are so many different ways that you can interpret it, including the way that I did for a while, which was just sort of taking a more what's the word, like mystic approach to like the Bible,
mythical interpretation.
Yes, like really viewing it as somehow a holy text, but not literal, but like from God, kind of like, this like very fuzzy hippy-dippy Christianity. There's so many different forms of it that I guess it doesn't. I do think that debunking Jehovah's Witnesses kind of debunks every cult, which is why I find value in doing it.
Yeah, there was that video that you made a couple, I want to say months back, maybe even like last year. I don't know. But you compared and contrasted like an evangelical pastor to Jehovah Witnesses. And I thought it was pretty interesting. Like, there's not a lot of content like that is actually like trying to deconstruct evangelical beliefs like that.
They might be watching. I had an amazing fan who edited that stream into an uploadable video for the channel, and I just haven't uploaded it because I'm an idiot. But it's that stream that you're talking about, because I thought it was interesting, because you just to hear a Christian pastor talk about Jehovah's Witnesses and being like, can you believe this dumb crap they believe about how the Trinity is not real? They're just like, I think I would have had no idea as a witness that the clergy, or I don't know, maybe now that I'm saying this out loud, I guess it kind of does play into what you assume is happening as a witness, where they're like, the clergy hates us. So I guess maybe I didn't know what that looked like as a witness, but it kind of would have played into into the narrative of like, oh yeah, the churches are in there telling their members not to trust Jehovah's Witnesses.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was going to say, because I currently go to an Orthodox parish. I attend church, and I do find it that it's kind of like a fine line, right? Like, obviously, I do appreciate that the content that you make does debunk a majority of like cults. I think like overall prima facie, like there's a lot, like I wouldn't say it's like low hanging fruit, but it doesn't take a lot to like destroy their house of cards, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I do think that there's still space for people who sufficiently deconstructed to then maybe open their hearts back up to like Christianity, whether or not it's like true.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like I think that as long as people are not being harmful or perpetuating what I view to be harmful ideologies, I don't care what people believe, and I am friends with Christians or people who are spiritual in some way, and I don't agree with them. Like I don't see what they see, or I'm not convinced by what they're convinced by, but they're good people, and they're not like their magical thinking, as I see it, is kind of contained into that one area in this healthy way that connects them to a community, and it's maybe more for them kind of more of a cultural thing than it is like a sincerely held, like, yes, I believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Like it's more like I'm going to church because that's where my friends are, and because there is some kind of value that I find in the ritual of worship and prayer. Like I feel good about it. Wait, what? Okay, sorry. I'm setting aside a comment that is really confusing me in chat.
You're good.
Veer me back on track. This is fun. And somebody, I think Ron Pomo in chat was saying that you have a podcast as well. I didn't realize I was talking to a celebrity. Sir.
Oh no, not even close in that domain. But thank you, Ron Pomo. Shout out. We're good mutuals on Twitter. Yeah, I have a friend. His name's Nick Barron on Twitter, and we co-host a podcast called the
I know that name. Oh, sorry. Say again.
The podcast is called The New Heretics. It's
The New Heretics, yeah,
cults and XJW stuff and things like that.
Okay, no, that's awesome. That's a great name too, by the way. Okay, so this is interesting to me because you sort of describe yourself as an atheist. I mean, is that because you're not really taking like a literalist approach to the Bible? You're not like, you don't think that the literal flood happened, so you're not really worried about those kinds of arguments?
Yeah, I think that a lot of those are the literalist approach to some of those verses doesn't obtain. I don't have to hold them as literal events for them to be meaningful, or for them to explain something which has other like symbological meaning or anything like that.
Yeah, that kind of reflects the approach that I was taking and kind of felt drawn to as a Jehovah's Witness. Like the more I gave talks about the Garden of Eden, the more I was like, there's no way that this was just like a real thing that happened. This is a crazy story. It doesn't make any sense. But as a story about how mankind fell from God's favor or whatever, like as a story about knowledge kind of being this thing that destroys you, and like once you know something, like once you take in knowledge and realize that you're naked or whatever, like you can never go back to not knowing. Like it's a cool story in that way, and I did find value in thinking of it in those terms. What value do you get out of going to church then?
For me, it's something new. It wasn't like for example, I still struggle with the belief of the resurrection of Christ. Whether or not that is literal or merely a symbol. Does it mean the body of Christ in regards to the church? Is that what is referencing? I think that's contentious, right? Because obviously we wouldn't, or people in the Christian tradition would want to say, no, it's a real bodily resurrection. Thomas put his fingers in Jesus' side. So, that there's like, if we take the Bible as a not just as a mythological book, but as a book giving accounts that actually happened, then Thomas would have inserted his fingers at Jesus' side. And for me, it's as a modern human, it's hard for me to really grapple with that because I don't know what that would entail. I don't know what that means.
Boy, well, we should have a another discussion sometime, because that, like, I was just talking to Christina about this earlier actually, because that was the thing that I couldn't get over. Like, when I really did kind of like the iconography of Christianity, and I found value in like reading passages and kind of reflecting on them, and like words, something you've read a few times, suddenly you read it and like get new meaning out of it. That kind of meditative quality I found something in. But I just kind of had a moment where I was like, do I really think that a guy rose from the dead? I don't think so. I don't think that I really believe it. I think I would have to kind of pretend or act as if I believed it, or just like want to believe it, or find some way to make it not literal. But at that point, then what am I even doing? Like, what value would there be in calling myself a Christian? So that was kind of the hang up that I had. That would be interesting to talk about sometime.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be down. If you want to email me, or I don't know how we want to coordinate this, but I'd be down to have a conversation or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit me up my email. It should be in the description of most of my videos. exjwfaq@gmail.com. But this is great. Thanks so much for tuning in. I got to yell at chat.
I was going to say,
I don't want you to be here for that. I don't want you to see me when I have to go into dad mode on chat.
You're good. I did have like 2 questions.
Okay, sure.
That actually have to do with the topic. If you don't,
okay.
Mind. I don't.
Yeah.
Stream or anything. The first one would just be: what would you say, in your opinion, and then taking into account your belief systems, what would be the strongest argument for God? If there was a God, what would be the strongest argument?
I mean, I guess, are you asking, like, if God was real, how would I know it? Like, how would I be convinced?
Yeah, I mean, that could be one of them. Yeah.
Because it's sort of like, well, I guess the best argument for God, I guess it would have to be something, like, personal. The people that I hear from, or not necessarily hear from, but hear about, is like, who have really transformative experiences. I did have a friend who claimed to have these sorts of experiences. Like, they all have some kind of personal revelation that's like, this, it had to be God. It's undeniable. I've never had anything like that. I think the best evidence for God would be something like that. You know, if we're talking about the Christian God, but if we're just talking about what would be the best evidence for the fact that there is something else out there and that we were created, even if it's like as a part of an alien jizzing into a river, like in Prometheus or whatever, like, I really don't know. I don't know what that would look like. Like, I could be persuaded to believe that, I don't know, we were actually in the engine of Rick Sanchez's car, you know, like in Rick and Morty, how there's just an entire society who doesn't realize, like, maybe something like that's true. I just have no way of knowing it. So short of having some kind of personal experience, one that's perhaps like universal, like, I don't know why this is what's coming to mind, but, you know, in Man of Steel, the Superman movie, when they do the first contact scene and, like, Zod comes down and they do this alien broadcast, but it's in every language around the world. So, like, you know, it cuts around the globe, and, like, you see people, like, hearing this broadcast simultaneously in every language.
Yeah, the Kryptonians figured out deep fakes before humanity.
Yeah, they totally did. The Kryptonian deep fake, and all that time in the Phantom Zone, they were hard at work figuring out translation technology that makes the MEP system look like the Stone Age. I don't know why I'm getting all worked up about this. Like, I feel like the only thing that would be like, oh, wow, okay, well, now we know God exists, is something that, like, happens to everybody all at once. But even then, my example was an alien. So I don't know if that would be a good example or not.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think I hear that argument a lot from people who are I wouldn't say sympathetic, but like at least are agnostic. They wouldn't take the strong stance that they have definitive proof that God does not exist, and they would at least be like, oh yeah, well, like, God could, if he's omnipotent and omnibenevolent, then he should be able to not only make a personable revelation to everybody, but he would know what that personable revelation would be to prove himself to that particular person. And I do find that somewhat of a compelling argument for like a defeater for like divine hiddenness, right? Because it would be the case that if God is all powerful and he knows everything, and he's all loving, that he would be able to do something like that.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. All right. Now, did you have one more question?
Just the last one was just kind of tied with that. It was kind of like, how would you know that God is kind of like talking to you, or how would you know that God was giving you that revelation? But you kind of did a slightly like approach
I
it.
think I think about this a lot because it comes up on those atheist call-in shows when people claim to have experiences. And like in my life, I had somebody who told me that like they talked to Jesus, real conversations, they really happened. And you know, I know this guy, he wasn't doing so great. He was going through a really rough patch in his life. And so I'm like, I think you just got a lot of issues going on, and you're drinking a lot and smoking a lot, and I think you're not really talking to Jesus, is what I think. But like, what would it be like for me to understand myself to be stone cold sober and have God experiences? Like, I don't know. I think you would at first think that you're going insane. I really don't know what that would be like. But my instinct would definitely be to doubt myself and think that I'm just crazy, because I think that anyway, without even believing in God. So I think I would have a hard time. And like, the more reassuring that this God was, it would be even more creepy. Made me think, right. Oh, wow. You know? So I think it's almost, that's an interesting question, because it really is like, shit, short of a guy coming down and talking to me and everyone in the room can be like, yep, that guy's there. Yeah. I think about this question a lot. I don't have a good answer.
I was going to say just briefly, if I could just, my last point, which was that, no, I think that's good. I think a lot of us would be doubtful. And I think this is why I don't personally take a lot of those arguments like by revelation or arguments by like empirical proof as like good arguments personally. Like, I just, like, if I saw like how would I know God revealed himself to me, and it's like, oh well, he would put like God's, you know, Yahweh or something like in the DNA of animals or something. I don't I don't think I would buy that. I would think like, yeah, like you said, I would be like going crazy, or we would be mistaken. But I think that's why I put more credence towards like personally, like just to give context, I study philosophy, and I do take a lot of the the logical arguments, or like the metaphysical, ontological, or epistemological arguments seriously. Am I convinced by all of them? No, and I don't think most people should or are convinced by them. So, but I think that's just my like temperament or my predisposition to be amicable towards that type of thinking.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I kind of have the same instinct, in person anyway. Online, my instinct is maybe not necessarily to be amicable all the time. Well, buddy, I gotta let you go because we got two people waiting, and I was expecting to wrap this up, and then people wanted to call in, and I gotta pee, and I mean, we got a whole situation here, Logo. But this has been great.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. You have a good one.
Yes. Also, Nick Barron, now that I see your avatar, I know you from the internet. I'm like, oh, okay, that's Nick Barron. I knew that name. All right. Good times, man. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we've got two people waiting, but by golly, I really have to go to the bathroom. I've been holding it in, and here I was thinking we'd wrap things up. But if our two callers are willing to wait, we're just going to have to do the pee break drop, and then I will be back in a minute or so.
Have you ever been confronted by a bad report, a false report about Jehovah's people? Angry? Did God really say that? Now, that was a lie.
Okay, all right. Peach is getting antsy. She's not liking that I'm here, so we're gonna have to keep these calls short. Oh no, got 3 people. All right. We're gonna have to do Waters of Life indeed. Yeah, okay. We need a moratorium on any and all conversations related to what Chandler was talking about. I booted him for whatever the timeout is, 5 minutes or something. Just woof. And it's just like, I don't know. There's kind of spirals of conversations on the internet that don't really go anywhere. Annoying. But you know who's not, is we got 3 people who are waiting. So I think we're going to have to keep a tight leash on this. I'd like to be done by, I don't know, 8:45. But this is Unsure Salmon. Hello, Unsure Salmon.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
I can. You sound great. Do you...
Fantastic. Oh, thank you. You sound great too.
Okay. Thank you. All right. You started with a compliment. Now you can call it...
Well, I'm going to give you another one here. I just want to say...
Oh, no. This is debate
I
stream.
wanted to say thank you for like creating your channel and like doing everything you've done. And I especially love your video, like where you record your elders meeting, because that like I cannot imagine like doing something like that. And that is like one of my favorite videos on YouTube. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Oh, well, that's very kind. I appreciate that. Thank you. Now, if it turns out that you're voting for Jill Stein,
what an
unfortunate turn this conversation would take.
We're on the same team. No. I bet you and I probably agree on probably 90% of issues.
All right. Well, let's see. What do you got?
I don't know. I guess I just wanted to kind of express.
You just want to call in?
Sorry, what's that?
You just wanted to call in. That's cool. That's
no. I wanted to express like genuine like fear that I'm feeling over this next election. Like,
okay, yeah.
The vibes that I'm picking up that are being put down are pretty spooky. Like, I feel like a lot of the things that were like in the shadows kind of are definitely not. Like, I was looking at the chat even before coming on, and like it's like any unmoderated space is just like pretty anti-Semitic. It's scary.
Yeah.
In scary times.
It's shocking. Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I feel almost like paralyzed.
Yeah. I know. That is a good prompt for a conversation. I think about a couple of things. One is that, boy, I got this cat and he's distracting me. He's cute. Having cute animals is good. Chandler, you cannot talk about the same shit over and over again, okay? You're just upsetting people. You've said your piece. You're not going to convince anybody. You're talking to the same...
Really don't have to, like,
I just am yelling at him there real quick.
No, I gotcha.
No, I just want to say, I did. That corner of shame didn't last very long. Okay, so the fear part of it. All right, so part of it, I think that being optimistic is genuinely like essential to survival.
Oh,
I think
for sure.
it is like it is necessary, and apathy is basically. I think that is how democracies die. I think it's how conspiracies thrive. It all springs from desperation and apathy, like feeling desperate, but feeling like there's nothing you can do about it. So what's the one thing you can do? You can buy into this reality where one guy's going to fix everything.
That's kind of what it is. Like it's an easy like story where like all the bad guys like secretly work together, and it's just like one thing. And if we somehow fix that one thing, like everything is just going to be good, And
and
the world is like so complicated, and it's like unexpressibly complicated. And
the other thing that I have kind of had to reconcile my brain on a little bit, and one of the reasons why I think it's good to have these discussions is because like I'm a pretty far left guy, but people I work with, not so much. Like they're either pretty apolitical.
No, yeah, I work with
maybe
I live in
socially.
Ohio. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, we probably work with a lot of the same kind of people, like a lot of
Right.
Republicans are just sort of like tapped out, whatever. They don't really care.
Yeah, I live.
And so
I live in a very rural area. Yeah.
And what I think I have started to appreciate about the approach that Kamala Harris has taken is the reality of, okay, there's only a certain amount of days before the election. She's not going to convince everybody on on a super progressive agenda. Like there are already people who think that like Joe Biden's super progressive and like what. But there are a lot of people who are like, you know what, this kind of shit where politicians are just spreading lies about hurricanes, that's crazy. I can't sign up
Like
for that.
that is like the scary thing. Like I don't know how we like step back from like just the situation where like everybody's allowed to lie all the time. Like
Yeah, and
I don't like
I
it.
agree. The post-truth society is really scary, and I think that it can be counteracted. But we've got this tumor at the heart of our country in Donald Trump, and the permission structure that he gives. Like you saw.
I like that phrase.
How
permission structure he gives. Yeah.
Yeah, I learned that from Smarter Politics people.
No, that's good. Yeah.
That they feel culturally like there is a permission to believe these kinds of things. Like a lot of liberals thought that racism was over because we elected a black president. Meanwhile, there's an entire alternate information ecosystem that just a lot of liberals weren't paying attention to. And little did they know that there was this permission structure growing to be like super racist and like conspiracy theorist about Obama, because what does it matter? I mean, he's the president. We're just saying shit online. It doesn't really matter. But it becomes this ingrained behavior. You're a part of this community, like whatever. I think that there needs to be. I think that defeating Donald Trump, there will be some level of chaos, probably similar to the way it was last time, where he's in the news media constantly saying it's a lie and his supporters are going crazy. But I think, just like last time, there's going to be a peaceful-ish transfer of power. There's not going to be... I think it will be okay. I do. And I think that there is something to this election about vibes. There is something about... Yeah. You can feel the national mood shifting on certain things. And I'm not a real spiritualist.
You can feel it.
Yeah, I'm not like a horoscope guy, but there's something to, like, we're in the United States and we all have access to, this constant barrage of information, and that information tends to take on a certain tone. And I think that just as that mood, like, a lot of us really felt that, like, really positive shift, I'm kind of starting to feel that again, seeing a lot of people turn out and early voting numbers come back.
Yeah,
and
I'm voting tomorrow.
Whatever. Like, and seeing that, like, there are a lot of Republicans who are like, you know what? I actually am fed up with this. So I think I am seeing a lot of like, yeah, okay. It's hard for me that there's 40% of the country that believes
it's
in weather machines or whatever, that Haitians are eating the dogs, but I think I'd rather that and have get that solid 60% up. I don't know if I'm really saying anything of value, but here's what I will recommend, because I got to get to our next person.
I have one quick recommendation, also. So you go ahead.
Okay, and I'm going to recommend something at you too.
Something that I do?
Yes, or just everybody to feel more optimistic. You go first.
Oh, I was going to recommend a short film. I don't remember what year it's from. It was made around World War II. It's called "Don't Be a Sucker," and I would just recommend that everybody in the chat go watch it right now.
I think I've seen this. I
don't know if it's like making the rounds or something, but
yeah, I think
highly
it is.
recommend it. Yeah, it's like 15 minutes long or something.
Yeah, and I would recommend. I watched this earlier today, and it was kind of surreal because it was like listening to a XJW panel, but David Pakman on his channel interviewed like 4 ex-Trump supporter guys.
Okay, he's like a left-leaning guy?
Yeah, he's like a left-leaning guy.
Yeah, okay.
And he's, I don't know, kind of just like boring to me. I don't tune in all the time, but he had this conversation with just 4 guys who voted for Trump in 2016 and or 2020 and are not anymore. And listening to the way they talk, and there was an interview that the Bulwark did with Adam Kinzinger, you know, one of these prominent Republicans who has left the party. And it is really just like listening to an ex-JW conversation. But you know why that gives me hope is like when people hear our stories, like even when like active witnesses hear it, it fucks them up a little bit. Like it stays with them, and it does. It might take a while. Yeah. It might take a while, but maybe some people are looking for permission to leave. And maybe
and I think
not everybody. But
that's very important to like give people like a space to off ramp. I guess I'm not. Maybe there's a better word for that. But like to give.
No, I think that's it. Yeah, off ramp is
right. Where you're. Totally. It's not. I felt like a lot of the times progressives can be like very harsh because like obviously the things that are happening are horrific. Like and that's the natural instinct, but. I do think there's like also place for like trying to understand like how did you get to this position, you know? So I don't know. I will let the next person go on because I know you wanted to wrap up. So I just once again thank you so much for doing all you do. Thank you for producing your channel. I love it.
Oh, thanks.
That's all I'd say.
Well, that's very fun. Wait, what? I don't remember Gubber calling in. By the way, I've got a couple of people in here waiting. But if somebody else wanted to call... Anyway. Thank you, Unsure Salmon. That was very kind. I appreciate that. What a fun little conversation. All right, Zealous Steph. Zealous for the work of the Lord?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Oh, shit.
I can.
Hear me. Perfect. Can I curse? Can I curse?
You can curse, yes. Probably. Now, you're a little quiet, but I might be able to... Let me see if I can do anything.
Maybe it's
I think I can increase you a little bit manually.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
Yes. All right. What is on your mind? Are you calling about God, politics, or something?
I wish I had a debate topic I could go back and forth with you on, but I don't really have anything. I came because I saw you were talking about with the other person prior about the Harris Walls debate. And oh shoot, I want to jump in on this.
Look at that. Look, we're right back. I made a banner and it was very official.
Interestingly, I was like going back I'll say like about a month ago, if you were to ask me, I was probably going to be like, oh, I'm not voting Kamala. Like I'm very, I guess I'm pro-Palestine. I'll describe myself as that. And
same. Yeah.
The way, Harris didn't like break away from Biden, when I felt like there was a good run. I don't know if it's too late now, per se. Even if she did right now, I don't know how much sway it'll have, at least towards like Arab American votes. How much that sway it'll gift for her. But like there was a good point where like she could have broke away, and it was just really like it just hit me, and it was a drag on like whatever enthusiasm I guess I might have felt earlier on, you know.
I think that's the vibe shift that we were talking about. I think a lot of people felt that like, oh, okay, so it's just gonna kind of be the same. I feel that.
But I did yesterday go out and I did vote Kamala because I was like, all right, let me just let me hold my nose, I guess, but not really. Actually, so I did have like the past few weeks, I've had like a massive philosophical shift because I felt like, and I don't know if what I'm about to say is controversial, but like I feel like when you're in a leftist progressive space where there's so much energy and there's so much passion, I'll describe it as that. Especially for the immoral acts we see that's taking place in Gaza. It's I came across the video where the people, you know, the Gazan hospital where they were just burning, and I was like,
oh yeah,
I was I try to avoid looking at those videos, but like,
it's absolutely sickening. It's the most horrible thing.
It just popped up, and I was like, God! And I saw the freaking hand, and I was moving, and while getting burned, I was like, this is insane. But like, so I feel that passion when progressives have it, especially very leftist, leaning people, and I'll see some of the tweets though, and they're like, hey, like today I saw a tweet that was like, and I know Twitter isn't necessarily representative of whole left but like I saw a tweet that was essentially like, I'm gonna paraphrase, but it was like, oh, I hate Kamala Harris, da 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 da. I'm not voting for her, and F her and it said F her and F her democracy. And I'm like, her democracy? You mean our democracy? This is like,
I think there's a horseshoe thing that happens, I think, where there's a genuine frustration, with the establishment. And to me, like, the problem that I see is that it can be like demoralizing to the point where people are like, well, just fuck it. It's just everything's fucked and we can't do anything. Yeah. So I think we should elect Trump, and it'll just accelerate the deterioration of democracy. And to me, I'm just like, do you like understand how many people here would die if that happened? Like, if we take what he's saying seriously, like, it's not going to be like, okay, there's going to be a couple bad months and then, well, we make it through. And then there's going to be a socialist revolution president something in 2028. Right. Like, no, it's going to be a really long, scary slide and violent slide. Like, this is what he's promising. And so that to me is the really like dispiriting but motivating thing, is like, there is a worse outcome to this. I think that we have reached a tipping point with the Gaza thing. I think that there's a real challenge with, like, and I don't think it's the right play by her campaign, but I think there's like, she's the vice president. She does not control foreign policy, exactly. But that's Biden, and he seems to be uniquely. This seems to be his thing because it goes against what a majority of his own party is saying. What people,
it's very strange.
It's by some reports, his own wife. Like, there are multiple reports that Joe Biden has told him that he needs to stop. Like, and Kamala Harris too. Like, so I think that what we're seeing may be the result of, like, yes, the Israel-Gaza conflict stretches far beyond October 7th, but this response, this uniquely shitty response, is like, I think it might be kind of particular to Biden in the same way that a lot of the things that are particular to Trump are particular to him.
Exactly.
Like, there are things that are just really weird about that guy. And that is something that I think that Kamala Harris will be better about, because I think that it's possible that she can be persuaded, because she has been very reliant on this grassroots movement,
I will say, like, one of the things that definitely was like, hey, I gotta like step out of this progressive, not the whole progressive, like this particular subsection of progressive bubble where things feel very doomer. I was like, let me step out of this.
Yes,
I saw
it actually, rightfully or not, it triggers my XJW memories a little bit of people where just revolution becomes Armageddon and it's around the corner. But are you all actually considering what
revolution means?
What you're implying is going to happen? Like, do you know what that's going to be like? It's not going to be. It's going to be charred, burnt hot dogs. Yeah, Anthony Morris style.
Just blow the candle out, or was it
yes,
a match or something? It was insane.
That's right. It's not going to be like a puff of smoke. It's going to be like charred, half-burnt hot dog. Hey, I don't know why we're talking about this.
Anyways,
but
crazy.
I got to get to the next person, but I'm really glad you called in.
Yes,
I totally sympathize to your vibe. I agree with kind of your perspective, which is like, there's no reason to compromise on your progressive values and your stances, but there is a problem with focusing on this doomerism to a point where you just day in this like state of constant anger, but you're not actually doing anything with it or directing it anywhere. Like that, I think is dangerous. And
you kind of forget like that at the end of the day, to be, if you're on the left or if you want to actually create any type of movement, you have to build it. And it's harder to do that under Republican. I saw a video by, I don't know if you know Leisha Miller, but I saw a video from her that was like, oh shit. Like
Great
this,
videos.
there's like real people out there that are doing the work, that are organizing, and like she really made the case that like, hey, like at the end of the day, if we have let's say you're protesting, for instance, under Trump, it will be protesting to keep whatever crumb of rights that we have. Under Harris, we are protesting offensively to get something, you know. And I'm like, hey, if the Democratic Party as a whole, there's at least a subsection of the Democratic Party that are pro-Palestine. Meanwhile, when I look at the Republican
100%.
Party, there's zero. So I'm like, there's a constituency here that you can move. And I feel like some leftists are not looking at the strategy as a whole. And like I said, when it comes to Arab Americans, I'm not going to vote shame them or tell them what to do, because they're touched physically by this in a way that no one else. But we're talking about regular white leftists and all these other, you know, leftist LARPers that I'm like, hey, you guys,
totally agree. And
do the right thing.
You know, it's always, you know, like Hassan Piker and Second Thought, who are, you know, I do good work sometimes, but like they're millionaires and they're going to be fine. They're not going to be on the front lines fighting a revolution. Whereas I see what you see, which I see that like, I think people, a lot of leftists just like, there is kind of a, like, we can't compromise even rhetorically for a second in any way, but it's like, we have to persuade, we have to bring people together. And like, when you look at the like AOC, Ilhan Omar, and like newer people in the party, like Jasmine Crockett and like Maxwell Frost, is that his name? Like there's a lot of, and even like people like Jamie Raskin, like there's a lot of like genuine progressives who will like talk very openly about, we're going to abolish the Electoral College, we're going to have universal health care, we're going to defund, we're going to stop so much military spending and use that for social services. Like they'll talk openly about that. They'll talk about every leftist thing that you hear on the Majority Report or whatever. It's just, there has to be a long-term strategy. It just can't happen tomorrow. You can't like post your way to it.
And it sucks. It sucks that this is happening. But yeah, let me try to get other people. Let me leave. But
all
my
right,
name Zealous Steph.
This is great.
My dad named me Steven after Steven because he wanted me to have Steven's zeal. So I was like Zealous Steph. Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Steven got stoned to death.
He did.
Is that right?
And I was like, when he told me that, I was like, okay, Dad. Can't wait to get stoned. But I've been watching you for a while, and I wanted to say thank you for all that you do. We kind of
thank you.
Had our waking up journey around the same time, because you said 2020. I was like, dude, 2020 was like, I mean, mine was 2019 or something.
It was that, yeah. I think I probably, there was something in the air around that time. I had the intention, and I think I even made a post about it, of trying to kind of interview other people from around that time, because it seems like there is something there, like especially when the pandemic hits, you know. But anyway, yes. Yeah, all right. Good stuff.
Thank you.
I'm not going to stone you to death, but I'm going to kick your ass out of the stream.
Damn.
All right. Thanks, Steph. Appreciate it. All right, Warren Graham, you've been so patient. Thank you so much for... No! Warren Graham's device not connected. Oh, no. Okay, well... Warren Graham was patient this whole time. The second I clicked on him, it says device is not connected. So I'm going to give a couple minutes. I need to fucking address the chat situation. God, we actually ended up having some callers, and I haven't been able to deal with chat. What a shit show. This is... did not... honestly, very nice, fun conversations with literally everybody else. And I saw that Jenny had to leave. She made a post that was like, I don't want to be like me and Chandler and drive him further into these beliefs, but what can you say when the beliefs are that extreme? And like, honestly, at a certain point, I feel like was respectful during that conversation as much as I possibly could be. I was completely stunned. It seems like he was just totally blind to the fact that when he says that he wants to level the enemies of Israel or whatever, that he's talking about real people. Like, it's just a completely incoherent beliefs. Warren Graham, are you with
can
me?
You hear me?
Hey!
Hey!
Thank you for patiently waiting, kind
sir. First time actually getting to talk to you by voice.
All right,
we've had quite a few conversations.
A rare treat.
For I don't know how long has it been? 2 years or something.
Yeah, I know. That is weird. It is weird, just the kind of like friendships and relationships you have with people online. It's like, this person is an avatar of like a cartoon character in my brain. That's what they look like.
Yeah. I think the last thing I mentioned about something we should actually discuss, where we have a medium that it's not going to be so rate limited, was about climate change. I don't know if you're interested in talking about that or not.
Whew. Well, it depends on what you mean.
It's an extremely complicated subject, so...
Oh, God. Probably not. I'm probably not really up to, like, I don't know, articulating why I believe in climate science or something like that. If that's where you're going.
I'm an environmental engineer with, like, further specific knowledge about it that's, like, extensive. So
in terms
I'm
of
not
you
going to have typical beliefs about it, I'll put it that way.
Or you like, because there's spectrums of disbelief. Like, give me your take. Let's see what I said cortisol. Let's see what I can handle for less than 15 minutes.
So basically, the subject matter is so absurdly complex that no single person is going to be able to fully comprehend it.
I would agree with that. When it comes to
because you're talking about
science things,
the physics of something that interplays between, like, I don't know, biosphere, atmosphere, sun, like, way too many different systems at a global scale. So as far as predicting things, I think that even a very powerful model is going to struggle to produce anything that will actually come to pass the way it predicts.
That's interesting, because it seems to be happening exactly the way they predicted. In fact, even at a scale that they had not thought possible with the way these recent tropical storms have happened. I guess I have a question for you. Are you a Jordan Peterson enjoyer by any chance?
We talked about him before, I thought.
Did we?
Yeah.
Was it on a... Okay, because...
multiple instances. Basically, I think he's knowledgeable about psychology.
You gotta remember, I've been smoking a lot of this.
Okay as a general thinker, but a lot of times when he goes outside his wheelhouse, he puts his foot in his mouth. So,
okay, I was just wondering, because what you're saying sounds similar to something that he said very weirdly.
I know.
In that interview where he's like, "Well, the climate means everything," and it's like, "Well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't mean everything."
I know. I arrived at this a different way than he did, but
right. But you're kind of saying that we cannot be confident because it is more complicated, because it involves so many, I don't know, different fields of science. But it doesn't, though. It involves climate science, and there are people who dedicate their life to understanding it.
Just because you put a label on something doesn't mean that you've simplified it. But anyway.
Listen, if you go to school to be a neurosurgeon, you learn and dedicate yourself to understanding the human brain and all of the things that happen when you touch different places, like it's a game of operation. You are somebody who, to a certain degree, with what your job is as a surgeon, you understand that thing, right? And it takes years and years of training to understand it, but you do. And sometimes the technology advances. You find better ways of doing
practical sense, you understand what's necessary to do your job.
Well, hang on,
everything around it.
No. How do you know you do your job well? The person doesn't have severe brain damage and they heal from their surgery, right? You see positive results because it's not just that you know how to do the job. It's that the job, like, I don't understand what I'm trying to say, but I'm saying it is possible, because it happens all the time in every field everywhere, that people dedicate their lives to understanding various facets of a thing. And then we combine all of that knowledge. The things that we know about the human brain is related to the things we know about our nervous system and about cells and about the way other brains evolve. And that's just
it's a little bit of a JW style analogy, in the sense that you're comparing two things that aren't actually similar enough in their basic way that they behave.
That's just because I'm talking off the top of my head, because I've been streaming for 2.5 hours.
A surgeon is not going to attempt things that he's not capable of. And I'm saying that without any kind of feedback,
what's happening right now that we're not capable of doing? Like, what are these things that we're not capable of that you're concerned about?
Mostly determining what would happen if we make specific interventions. But
what interventions would you be concerned about?
Well,
because to me, what is the downside of just slow rolling out and transitioning away from gas-powered automobiles to electric? Like,
the downside,
why would that be bad?
I don't want to surprise you too hard, but the downside would essentially be death for everyone.
No, wrong. So that's not what would happen. Because we already have them, and no one's dying because of electric cars, except for the shitty ones that catch on fire that Elon Musk builds. But that doesn't make. But don't you see that sounds kind of silly? Like, our automobiles used to have a crank in the back of them, and that was like the height of technology. Like, this is
the end goal of what you're talking about is replacing fossil fuels categorically. And
that's not what I said.
What I'm. Well, you said a slow roll, but you're talking about slowly transitioning, right?
I said for vehicles. I said for motor vehicles.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear your whole statement.
Yeah. No, I was just talking about, like,
if the goal is to stop climate change by stopping the movement of carbon from the lithosphere to the atmosphere, I mean, that's basically impossible.
What authority do you have
killing
to
everyone.
say that? Why are you smarter than all of the people who just definitely are smarter and know more about this? By definition, they know more than you, and you know that they do. Of course they do.
Well,
why are you smarter than them?
I don't want to try and articulate what other people's motivations or other people's level of knowledge. All I'm trying to communicate is what I've
by definition, you're like, nobody understands this really except for me.
I'm not saying I understand it. I'm saying it's not understandable. But anyway.
But that just sounds like you don't understand it. That just sounds like this is not understandable. It's impossible. But a lot of people are saying that, no, it is understandable, and we know exactly what to do, and here's a plan to do it. And you're like, they can't possibly know that, even though they do. They just said they do, and they proved it. So I don't really understand your logic here.
Okay.
Yes, Dunning-Kruger. It seems like you know enough about a thing to know that it's complicated, but why do you think that it's impossible for other people to know more about it and just to understand it better?
Because you don't understand to what degree literally everything is dependent upon fossil fuel.
Well, I don't really care about that.
I would really challenge you to even think of a single thing that you have or possess that isn't in some way dependent on
my dog,
other than your body,
and my wife, and the sun, and grass. I mean, listen, I guess here's my thing with this, right? Like, I'm just a guy. I want to do I want to live a kind of normal life. I want to do creative stuff full time, have a family. It doesn't really matter to me personally, like how I get to work. I would really like there to be a planet, though, for my future generations. And so, just to kind of get through the day, I defer to people who have been rigorously peer reviewed and formed a consensus over the course of decades, because they seem to be right about stuff, and technology advances, and they know more than me, and it would be silly of me.
That would be consoling if you actually
No, it is consoling.
had read what someone had put together a plan that covered everything. But
what do you mean?
What I see are very tiny fractions of the overall issue.
I've read climate change legislations before. Like, I understand the incredible. Like, I understand that it is complex, and I understand that it may not be fully resolvable. I mean, our planet is going to have an expiration date anyway, like even without climate change. This is just accelerating what may be a natural deterioration of our planet as it moves closer to the sun, right? Like in a billion trillion years. Even if we solve climate change, maybe the Earth is gone, but that would have given man time to develop technology to get off the planet and find habitable life elsewhere. But if the planet deteriorates too quickly, we won't be able to do that.
Sure.
Sure.
And it's not as though I don't think that it's a good idea to reduce the rate at which we send CO2 into the atmosphere. It's just that there are more solidly well understood reasons to do that besides climate change.
Wait, so you think that you should do it anyway, even without climate change?
Yes.
Then what do you care?
Specifically for coal. But the reason is because if CO2 concentrations get close to 1,000 ppm, they're at about 400 now.
I'm not really. Can I tell you something? This is. I understand that this is like supposed to be a professional debate, but I'm just some asshole. I don't care about that at all. I don't have any reason to believe that anything you're telling me is true or false, because you're just a.
What I'm saying is, if it gets high enough, people will start to lose IQ points and just perpetually have headaches and stuff like that.
Here's what I'm trying to say. I'm a layman, and I just don't think it's that important that I personally worry about what might happen if the world completely gets rid of fossil fuels. That seems like that's probably not going to happen super soon. Like all of the major, like really aggressive plans to combat climate change are still incremental. Nobody's like, tomorrow they're all shut down. All of the gas stations are closed, and it's all going to be incremental. There's going to be a learning curve. We're dealing with like the environment. We're like, as we've just seen, like tropical storms can sometimes progress faster than anticipated. Like there are going to be things that we don't expect. So we have to defer to people who like their entire job is to figure this shit out. That's why we have jobs. That's not my job. So I don't really feel like I need to worry too much about it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why you're all worried about this. You're not a climate doctor, scientist, right? Like outside of this?
No, just a very interested person.
I think that, I mean, like I'm also interested in all of it. It also, like, you know, it's a little overwhelming. It's scary, but it's very interesting. But I just haven't seen anything that would lead me to believe that not only is it a huge problem. I don't know. Are you saying that it's like pointless? That it's pointless to try and do anything because we're just fucked because we're so reliant on fossil fuels?
I'm saying that the degree to which you attempt to solve the problem, you'll most likely create a larger one. Which has to do with
goal is to do
making
nothing.
Yourself poor, basically.
We should do nothing, you're saying?
Not entirely. I'm saying we should try to mitigate the things that are like just stupid wastes of carbon, like massive overutilization of coal in place of other fuels. But
that's going to require, regulation, government regulations and stuff.
Not in the U.S. because the economics already play out that it's better to use natural gas anyway. In other countries, sure, but in the U.S. we really don't need to do anything.
To me, I just find it to be such a forget what we do in this country. I mean, it's climate change. It's an Earth problem. It's going to require every single person or not every person, but every major government that has control on Earth to make major changes, and that's something that's beyond my control. I can do individual things, and I can certainly vote for candidates who I think are going to make the best impact on the issues. But there have been issues that have been solved because of climate change legislation. You can see positive impacts. I don't really think that it makes sense to try and stop the progression of technology anyway. Like electric vehicles, that just is the future. That's just going to happen. And in the same way that we didn't used to have cars at all, or in the cars that we used to have had a fucking crank on it. There's just these technologies.
Electric cars is a bit of a different discussion and has to do with the physics of energy density, but
maybe, but I don't really care about that. I'm just saying I think climate change is real, so I think we should do some stuff to stop it. And if reasonable, scientific experts say, hey, this is something that would be really good if we did this, here's what our models predict, and here's what we think we should do, then I don't really see any reason to not do it, because, I don't know, I don't think that
when you're making a bad economic trade...
No, but it would be good.
You're effectively
in my scenario,
making
it's good.
A local level, really you're killing people because money and life are interchangeable. I mean, how do you get money? You get it by being productive, spending a part of your finite lifespan in exchange for other people's productivity, which is a part of their finite lifespan. Money and life are the same thing.
What does that have to do with doing?
If you're making an economically poor decision in the sense of you're trading. So the reason why fossil fuels are so economically miraculous in the first place is because they're essentially free reduced carbon. They're energy that's been put away that you just have to take out of the ground and can use it immediately.
Listen, everything you're saying could be totally true or it could be totally wrong, because I'm not a scientist and I don't know how carbon works or fossil fuels. So you could be saying the complete wrong thing. I don't know. And I'm not trying... this is me being a simpleton. I just genuinely don't really care. It doesn't really matter to me that much. I just don't really care. I just don't see any kind of value in me getting all worked up.
The value is in the political impact. So... If
you can hang on, you keep
if
cutting
it's
me off.
true,
I don't understand. I muted you just because I'm trying to get across a point. I don't understand what do you want to do? What should I be doing about this? What is this concern? Where is it directed? Do you think, because we're talking about voting and stuff and things that we can do to improve society. So what do you think that we should do? What should politicians be doing? Because I don't know. Also, side question, why don't you believe all the people that say you're wrong? I'm not letting him speak. I'm sorry. I thought that I was letting him speak. Apparently you were not speaking enough.
Yeah. It can be...
My bad.
When you're engrossed in something, it can be hard to notice the time differential. I forgot your question because of that.
I was rambling and then I got distracted by chats. I just wanted to know, but why? Or sorry, no. Let me rephrase that. What is it that you want to do about this issue? We have an election coming up. Is there some calculus in your mind, I think that the candidate, my ideal candidate would be doing this or that?
I mean, the most immediate impact to any one of us is going to be the economic consequences of policy decisions. Pretty much. I mean,
I've not seen anything to support your claims,
like
though.
rights and things like that. But if a candidate is advocating for easier access to energy to leverage our productivity, and another candidate is saying that no, we should constrain how much energy we produce, or
who's saying that?
shift
Who's
it to a
running on
less efficient.
constraining energy?
I'm
produce more
paraphrasing.
energy now than we ever have before.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't it more about the kind of energy that we produce?
I'm sorry?
Isn't it more about the kind of energy that we produce rather than just producing energy generally?
No, actually.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know.
So the kind of energy matters in terms of how useful it actually is. You may have heard of the duck curve problem.
No, I've heard of ducks and curves, but you've
Okay.
got less than 5 minutes. Pick your favorite
It has to do with
points.
the problem of intermittency in renewables production. So renewables on a raw basis appear to be like economically favorable, but if you account for the fact that they're intermittent and that the loads that they are supporting are not intermittent, the need to compensate for that with storage makes them way more expensive. And not only that, but you actually can't, the higher the mix of renewables that you add, the higher the number of intermittent sources, the more expensive that storage gets. So you can have a small amount of renewables and it won't make that big of an impact on the cost of electricity. But once you start to get above like 30%, it basically becomes like completely economically infeasible.
Under our current economic systems. But
No,
what about
it's got
the
nothing to
economic
do with the economic
consequences?
system. It's got to do with the physics.
What about the economic consequences of increasingly bad natural disasters and millions of displaced people? And if oceans levels rise, like entirely, like uninhabitable, like places of the United States.
Part
Isn't
of
that
something
way
that we
worse?
discussed earlier had to do with the fact that this was a global issue and not a local one.
You think people will just move?
No,
'Cause they'll have the
I mean
ability to do
that if you're sacrificing the local well-being of your people to make a small change in the overall effect, you have to account for what fraction of the total you are. And
it just seems like you're saying a lot of things that you're
the
assuming
directness of your
nobody
impact.
else. I don't know. I don't really. Sorry, I know I'm interrupting you. It is a little over my head. I know that I come across a little ignorant here, but to be honest, this isn't really something that I'm concerned about. I've not seen anything to validate this concern that, I don't know, like shifting towards green energy, all that kind of stuff is going to be economically bad. I don't see it that way. It seems like it's something that can.
There's a patina of difference, but this is, I would argue, one of the only real differences between the two parties. Most of the other things you're talking about either just don't matter by comparison, or are just, they're a very small Overton window.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. They're not too far apart. Well, I don't know. They're not too far apart ideologically, probably. But yeah, I mean, one party thinks that climate change is a hoax and or whatever, don't worry about it, and the other party thinks it's real and that we should do things about what seems to be a very evident problem that is agreed upon by the vast majority of scientists. And
it can be a real problem without there actually being a solution, without you having the ability to do anything. And
so you're I'm having trouble following your train of thought. It seems like you just don't
possible.
Honestly, it sounds like you're
disadvantage you.
Just sorry, I'm just trying to say it just seems like you're worried about the economic repercussions of like shifting towards green energy, but you don't want to say that it's just that. So you're like going into this like crazy scientific argument to just be like, I think the economics are bad, and I'm more concerned about that.
No, that is what I'm saying. That's a paraphrase of what I'm saying. I was just trying to give some support for my argument.
Gotcha. Well, I apologize because I am a little wiped out at the end of this stream.
Yeah,
so
no,
if we do this again,
I had to leave the house because I still live with Peemies. So.
Oh wow, okay. Well, I appreciate you calling in and putting up with my not super smart about science things ass. But thanks for calling. If we do it again, call back in. We'll have a longer discussion.
Thanks to Warren. There's probably some other topics that would be interesting. Some philosophical stuff that it took me a long time to learn. So
I agree. All right, Warren Graham, thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry, he didn't put his name on the thing. It might be because he was Pimo. All right, everybody, this was quite an experience, one for the ages. Hopefully, you saw it live because you're not going to see it after this. Probably not going to post a link to this, but it'll be unlisted. Boy, oh boy. Sorry to people in chat who got, super, yeah. Okay. So this was my frustration it's just, I'm too tired after talking for almost 3 hours to really articulate this, but it's just this kind of hand wringing about I don't know if you know this, but doing things might be bad. So we shouldn't. So we just shouldn't, because it would probably be really bad. And that's the kind of vibe I get. But I was being sincere that listen, I'm not a climate scientist. I don't know about what all of the things that Warren Graham was saying. And for all I know, gospel truth. He's the genius scientist who knows all of these things. I don't know. All I know is that every single smart, intelligent, respected person who's able to show their work and talk about the issue and explain it and model it and just everything that I've seen my entire life, it leads me to believe that climate change is real. And if you believe it is real, then you should try to do something. And all I hear is just well, don't do anything, really. Just maybe kind of tiny little things that and I just don't get it. It seems like a lot of fear of hypothetical consequences, when to me the fear of not doing anything about climate change is way scarier than, oh no, the economy will be bad. I would rather there be a living planet with a poor economy. I mean, money is a social construct. We can just take to the caves. No, that's not a real thing you can do. IDK, thanks for the stream. Well, we all learned a little lesson tonight. We all learned it's not in the U.S.'s hands. Well, I don't necessarily disagree that it's not our problem alone to solve. We all learned something. Me and Christina were talking earlier tonight about why I have no desire to restart a Discord. Is one of many reasons. This was fun, but the unexpected drama, and then you see other fights happening, and none of it has anything to do with what you even wanted to talk about. That kind of thing, I really don't miss. But I wanted to do this kind of thing because I am curious about making political content, but sometimes I don't know if I really have the stomach for it. I clearly don't have the brain to talk about everything. But there's stuff I'm passionate about. I like talking to people I disagree with. I think I can do it without being nasty. So I appreciate everyone who went along for the ride with me, because this was interesting. I definitely am feeling good about my decision to go all in on video essays about things that I like. Positive energy. But I probably am going to post TikToks about politics. I don't know how you get live streaming privileges on TikTok. I don't have them yet. Someday. And when I do, I'll debate people on things I don't understand all the time. You can see I feel much better about talking about, U.S. electoral politics than I do the nuances of carbon. I don't know jack shit about that. Culty Talk learned nothing as they missed everything. That's all right. All right, everyone. Well, I don't know what the fuck to say about all that. I think it was really fun, though. I had a really good time talking to everyone. I hope I'm not sounding like too much of a downer. Our first call was wild. That was really weird. I think it was probably more triggering for people in chat than it was for me because I was so blindsided that I was almost like there was a delayed reaction in getting upset. I started to get more just like thrown off and like, what the fuck is happening looking at chat. But honestly, like everybody else was so lovely. Most of the callers had a different perspective than me. And I think we were able to be respectful. I know I was talking over Warren a lot, but there was some kind of delay. And also I lost track of my sanity after doing this for 3 hours. So thanks, everyone. This was great. We'll do it again sometime because I don't learn lessons on this channel. It's a commitment I make.